There is an ancient whisper, an echo that has traveled through time, through the hollow halls of grand cathedrals and the silent stillness of forgotten groves. It asks a question that beats at the very heart of our search for meaning. What if the greatest temple you could ever build was not of stone, but of silence? What if the most profound worship was not a song sung aloud, but a quietening of the soul? We spend our lives seeking, building, reaching outwards. We construct magnificent altars, adorn them with gold and with flowers, and light incense that curls towards an unseen heaven. We chant the holy names, hoping our voices will be heard across the vastness. We perform the rituals, follow the sacred calendars, and make the pilgrimages to hallowed ground, believing that in these acts we draw closer to the divine. We look for a sign, a feeling, a proof of grace in the world outside of us. But in all our doing, in all our searching, we have overlooked the one sanctuary that is always with us, the one altar that needs no adornment, the unseen temple of our own being. This journey, the one we are about to begin together, does not lead to a place you can find on any map. It does not require you to travel anywhere but deeper into the landscape of your own awareness. We will not be walking towards a distant light, but learning to recognize the light that already glows within. This is an invitation to turn your gaze inward, past the noise of your thoughts, past the demands of the ego, past the stories you have been told about who you are and what you must do to be worthy. It is a journey to discover a truth more fundamental than any scripture, that the most sacred offering you will ever make is not something you can hold in your hands, but something you hold in your heart. It is the offering of a gentle spirit in a world that encourages hardness, the offering of a humble mind in a world that rewards arrogance. What if we could learn that our very presence, when imbued with kindness and humility, becomes the highest form of prayer? That our being, in its purest state, is the only ceremony that truly matters? Let us step through that doorway now. Not a door of wood or iron, but the subtle, ever-present opening into the now. Let us begin. The impulse is as old as our own breath, the desire to give the sacred a form, a place, a name. We look at the vast, silent sky. We feel the unnameable thrum of life in our own chests, and we are moved to create a symbol for it, an anchor for our awe. So we raise the temples, stone by heavy stone, believing that the higher the spire, the closer we are to the heavens. We carve the faces of gods and saints, pouring our hopes and fears into their impassive eyes. We designate certain grounds as holy, drawing a line in the dust and declaring that God is here, but not there. This is the first and most human of acts, to build a house for the infinite. It is a beautiful gesture, born of a genuine yearning for connection. We light a candle in the darkness, and for a moment, the world feels a little safer, a little more known. We build an altar in our homes and in our hearts, a focal point for our devotion, a place to lay down our burdens and our gratitude. There is no error in this. It is a starting point. It is the language of a soul beginning to awaken, learning to speak of the divine in the only way it knows how, through a grammar of shape and scent and ritual. But a starting point, by its very nature, is not the destination. The illusion takes root when we forget that the symbol is not the truth it points to. We begin to worship the finger and not the moon. The altar, once a simple reminder of the sacred within, becomes the perceived source of the sacred itself. We place our power, our peace, our salvation into the keeping of this external thing. We turn ourselves into spiritual beggars, pleading for a grace we believe is held by an idol, a priest, or a place. We create a fundamental and painful duality, the great chasm between the seeker and the sought. I am here, small and lacking. The divine is there, vast and complete, and so the endless journey begins. The journey to bridge a gap that never truly existed. This is the great illusion of the outer altar, the belief that what you are searching for is separate from you. It transforms the spiritual path from a journey of remembrance into a journey of acquisition. We try to acquire peace, to earn forgiveness, to achieve enlightenment, as if these were objects to be collected and stored. Imagine a pilgrim. See him in your mind's eye. His feet are cracked and bloodied from 1,000 miles of walking. His robes are tattered, his body thin from fasting. He has spent a lifetime on the road, driven by a single, burning purpose: to reach the legendary temple at the summit of the world's highest mountain, where it is said that God speaks to man. He has endured desert heat and mountain snow. He has faced bandits and beasts, and the even greater demons of his own doubt and despair. He has given up everything: a home, a family, a life of comfort, all for this one chance to stand in the presence of the ultimate reality. His entire being is focused on that outer altar, that holy of holies on the distant peak. It is his reason for living, the destination that gives his suffering meaning. And then, one day, after years of toil, he arrives. He pulls his weary body up the final flight of stone steps, his heart pounding with a mixture of terror and exultation. He pushes open the ancient, heavy doors. And what does he find inside? He finds silence. He finds emptiness. There is no booming voice from the clouds. There are no choirs of angels. There is no radiant, all-knowing presence filling the space. There is only the sound of the wind whistling through the stone archways, and the sound of his own ragged breathing. The altar is there, just as the legends described it, carved from a single piece of white jade. But it is just a stone, a beautiful, cold, silent stone. In that moment, a despair greater than any he has ever known washes over him. His life has been a waste. The stories were lies. There is nothing here. He collapses onto the cold floor, his quest a failure, his heart a hollow ache. He stays there for a long time, perhaps for days. The fire of his seeking has burned out, leaving only ashes, and in the vast, profound emptiness of his failure, something new begins to stir. With no destination left to strive for, no God to implore, his mind, for the first time in his life, becomes utterly still. The relentless engine of seeking has finally run out of fuel. And in that stillness, he hears it. Not a voice from the outside, but a quiet, unshakable knowing from within. A deep, resonant peace that has been there all along, buried beneath the clamor of his quest. He realizes that the sacred presence he was searching for was not in the temple but in the pilgrim. It was the silent witness that watched him trudge through the desert. It was the unshakable will that drove him up the mountain. It was the profound stillness that was waiting for him at the end of all his striving. The God he sought was the awareness that was looking through his own eyes. The outer altar was not a destination, it was a crucible. Its purpose was not to give him an answer from on high, but to exhaust his external search so thoroughly that he would have no choice but to finally turn inward. He had to walk 1,000 miles, only to realize he was already home. This is the journey for each of us. Your life is that temple. The people and situations within it are the altars. You look at your job, your relationships, your financial status, your health, and you treat them as outer altars. You say, if only this person would love me, then I would be whole. You say, if only I had more money, then I would have peace. You say, if only this situation would resolve, then I could be happy. You are the pilgrim, placing your salvation in a stone that cannot give it. You are praying to a reflection in a mirror, begging it to change, without realizing that you are the one looking into it. The world is a hall of mirrors. It does not give you experiences. It reflects your own state of consciousness back to you. The anger you see in another is the reflection of a dormant anger within you. The lack you perceive in the world is a reflection of your own inner feeling of scarcity. The love and beauty you witness are a direct echo of the love and beauty you have cultivated inside yourself. The universe does not judge, it does not punish or reward, it only reflects. It is an impartial mirror of the highest fidelity. Therefore, the work is never to polish the mirror. It is never to rearrange the reflections. To spend your life trying to control the outer world, to manipulate people and events, into a shape that you believe will finally bring you peace, is the ultimate act of futility. It is the pilgrim's walk, a path of endless effort and inevitable exhaustion. The true work, the only work, is to change the face that is being reflected. It is to turn your attention away from the illusionary dance of form and look directly at the source of the projection. When you do this, you reclaim your power. You cease to be a victim of circumstance, a leaf blown about by the winds of fate. You become the creator of your experience, not by forceful will, but by the gentle and profound transformation of your inner state. You understand that the offering is not to please an external God, but to purify the inner altar from which your entire reality is projected. So, the journey must turn inward. The great pilgrimage is a journey of 180 degrees. We must stop facing the world of effects and turn to face the world of cause. And where is this source? Where is the artist who paints every reflection we see in the mirror of the world? It resides in the space between your ears. It is the architect of your reality, the weaver of your perceptions, the judge and the jury of your every experience. Before we can cultivate a gentle heart, we must first look at the soil where it must grow. We must be willing to walk into the often chaotic, untended space of our own consciousness. We must face the architect of the illusion. We must turn our gaze upon the unquiet mind. We have turned away from the outer altar, the world of reflections, to face the architect of the illusion. And what do we find? We find a space filled with ceaseless noise. A torrent of words, images, memories, and projections that rarely, if ever, falls silent. This is the unquiet mind. It is the relentless narrator who comments on everything you do, the phantom debater who argues with people who aren't there, the anxious fortune teller who spins 1,000 catastrophic futures from a single thread of uncertainty. It is a ghost in the machine, and its voice is so constant, so pervasive, that most of us have come to believe that its voice is our own. We think we are the thinker. We believe we are the noise. This is the most fundamental misidentification, the root of the untended state in which we live. To understand this inner world, let us use an ancient metaphor. Your mind is a garden. Your deep, silent awareness is the rich, fertile soil, capable of growing anything. And your thoughts, they are the seeds. Every single thought that passes through your awareness is a seed, holding the blueprint for what it can become. For most of our lives, we are not conscious gardeners. We have left the gates of our garden wide open. The winds of the world blow through it constantly, carrying seeds from every possible source. A seed of fear is dropped by a news report. A seed of inadequacy is planted by an advertisement. A seed of resentment is carried on the memory of a past hurt. A seed of anxiety is blown in from a conversation about the future. Because we are not tending the garden, because we are not mindfully choosing what we allow to take root, the ground becomes overrun. It becomes a wilderness of weeds. These weeds are not passive. They are aggressive. They are thirsty. They wrap their roots deep into the soil of our consciousness and drink our life force, our precious attention. Look closely at your own garden. You will find the thorny weeds of yesterday. These are the thoughts of regret, of things you wish you had said or done differently. They are the bitter roots of old resentments, replaying conversations and injuries over and over, as if a different outcome were possible. These weeds of the past keep you tethered to a world that no longer exists, poisoning the present moment with the ghosts of what was. Your energy, which could be used to nourish the here and now, is instead spent watering these dead memories, keeping them painfully alive within you. Then there are the sprawling, choking vines of tomorrow. These are the weeds of anxiety and worry, the endless what-if scenarios that your mind loves to create. What if I lose my job? What if I get sick? What if they don't love me anymore? What if I fail? Each of these thoughts is a seed that, when watered with your attention, grows into a thick vine of fear, strangling the fragile sprout of present moment peace. You begin to live in a phantom reality, a future that has not happened, and may never happen. You suffer 1,000 tragedies in your imagination, paying the emotional price for disasters that exist only as thoughts. The garden becomes a dark, overgrown thicket of imagined threats, and you forget that right now, in this single, actual moment, the sun may be shining. Perhaps the most toxic weed of all is the weed of judgment. It grows low to the ground, with sharp, stinging leaves. This is the voice of the inner critic. It is the relentless commentator that tells you that you are not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough. It compares your garden to every other garden you see, always finding yours lacking. It points out every flaw, every wilted leaf, every patch of dry soil. This weed of judgment does not stop at your own garden gate. It spreads, casting its critical eye upon others. We judge their choices, their appearance, their beliefs. This judgment creates a sense of separation, an us versus them mentality that hardens the heart. A gentle heart cannot possibly grow in soil that is saturated with the poison of constant judgment. It withers before it has a chance to bloom. Anger, envy, jealousy. These are not primary emotions. They are the bitter fruit that grows from the deep roots of judgment and comparison. For so long, we live as unconscious gardeners. We are so lost in the wilderness of our own minds that we believe we are the weeds. When the feeling of anxiety arises, we say, "I am anxious." When a thought of anger appears, we say, "I am angry." We have completely identified with the content of our minds. We mistake the storm for the sky, and in this state of identification, we unknowingly nourish the very things that cause us to suffer. By giving our unwavering attention and belief to a negative thought, we are pouring sunlight and water onto a weed, helping it grow stronger, thicker, more dominant. Then we wonder why our inner world is so full of struggle, why peace feels so distant and fleeting. When a person first awakens to the state of their inner garden, their first instinct is often to declare war. They decide they must eradicate the weeds. They try to fight their anxious thoughts, to suppress their anger, to argue with their inner critic. "I must not feel this way," they tell themselves. "I have to be positive." This is a noble impulse, but it is a strategy doomed to fail. You cannot fight the mind with the mind. You cannot use thoughts to defeat thoughts. It is like trying to use a knife to cut itself. It is like trying to flatten a stormy ocean with an iron. The very act of fighting, of resisting, is a form of turmoil. It creates more conflict. The thoughts you resist persist. The weeds you try to rip out with violence and anger seem to grow back even stronger, because you are giving them the powerful, chaotic energy of your struggle. A garden is not tamed by violence, but by patient, persistent, and loving cultivation. So what is the first act of a true gardener? It is not to pull a single weed. It is not to plant a single new seed. The first, most crucial, and most transformative act is simply to become present in the garden and to observe. It is to walk through the wilderness of your own mind with the lamp of non-judgmental awareness. You stand back and you watch the thoughts arise without grasping onto them, without pushing them away. You notice the feeling of anxiety as a vibration in your body without labeling it bad or needing it to vanish. You see the inner critic begin its tirade, but you do not engage it in debate. You simply see it. You notice it as you would notice a dark cloud passing in the sky. This is the beginning of disidentification. In the simple, quiet act of observing your mind, you create a space between the observer and the observed. For the first time, you realize on a deep, experiential level that you are not the thoughts. You are not the emotions. You are not the weeds. You are the silent, aware presence that is noticing them. You are the gardener, not the garden. This awareness is the sunlight. Many of these weeds of the mind are like creatures of the dark. They thrive in the unconscious, but they cannot long survive when exposed to the bright, clear, compassionate light of your attention. You do not need to fight them. You only need to see them. This is the beginning of true inner work. It is the path away from struggle and towards wisdom. We are learning to see the chaos for what it is: impersonal, conditioned patterns of thought, like wild seeds blown on the wind. We are learning that we have a choice, not in whether the seeds arrive, but in whether we choose to cultivate them. But to do this, to be this calm observer, we must first find our footing on solid ground. If the garden is a raging storm, where can the gardener stand? If the mind is all chaos, where is the place of peace from which to observe it? The answer is that the peace is not a place within the garden. It is the nature of the space that holds the garden. We must now look beyond the storm itself, beyond the clouds of thought and emotion, to discover the vast, silent, and unshakable sky that has been holding them all along. We must learn to feel for the stillness that contains all the noise. We have stood at the edge of the untended garden, the inner world of the unquiet mind. We have witnessed the storm of thoughts, the relentless churning of memory and projection that clouds our days and disturbs our nights. We have seen how we become lost in this storm, mistaking the thunder for our own voice, the lightning for our own light. But in the very act of witnessing, a new possibility was born. The realization that if you are the one who is aware of the storm, you cannot be the storm itself. A space, however small, has been created between the seer and the seen. And this space is the beginning of all freedom. This space is the door to everything that is real and eternal within you. So we must ask the most profound question a human being can ask. Who or what is this silent witness? What is the nature of this awareness that sees the thoughts, feels the emotions, and experiences the world, yet is not any of those things? To find the answer, we must shift our perspective entirely. We will use another metaphor, as ancient as the hills. Your thoughts, your emotions, your fears, your joys, your sensations, every event that happens in your life, these are like the clouds. The mind is a weather system, constantly producing clouds of every shape and size. Some are white and wispy, pleasant thoughts that drift by lazily. Some are dark and heavy, storm clouds of anger, grief, or fear, crackling with the energy of turmoil. From our usual state of consciousness, lost within the mind, we are identified with these clouds. When a dark cloud appears, we believe, I am dark, I am the storm. We are tossed about by the winds and soaked by the rain, completely at the mercy of the mental weather. But you are not the clouds. You have never been the clouds. You are the sky. You are the vast, open, limitless expanse of awareness in which all the clouds of your life appear, drift through, and ultimately dissolve. The sky does not cling to the beautiful, fluffy clouds. It does not fight the dark, menacing storm clouds. It does not try to hold on to the sunlight or push away the rain. The sky simply allows them all to be. It provides the space for the entire weather pattern of your life to unfold. And most importantly, the sky is never, ever harmed by the clouds. A thundercloud may be violent, but it cannot bruise the sky. The densest fog cannot stain the sky. The fiercest storm is a temporary event happening within the sky, but the sky itself remains untouched, untroubled, forever in its silent, peaceful majesty. This is not just a beautiful idea. It is the deepest truth of your being. Can you feel it now? Can you shift your identity, just for this moment, from the fleeting cloud of your current thought to the vast, open sky of your awareness? Let this sink into you. The anger you felt yesterday was a cloud. It passed. The anxiety you feel about next week is a cloud. It has not yet formed, and it too will pass. The momentary joy you felt this morning was a cloud, beautiful and bright, and it has also passed. But you, the sky, remained. You, the silent, aware space in which all of this was experienced, are still here, unchanged, unharmed, always present. This is the stillness beyond the storm. It is not a state you need to achieve or create. You cannot make yourself the sky. You can only cease to believe you are the cloud. You can only remember what you have always been. Let us find this stillness together, right now. It is not hidden. It is the most obvious, yet most overlooked reality of your experience. Feel the sensations in your hands. Feel the subtle tingle of life, the energy pulsating just beneath the skin. That feeling is happening in your awareness. Now, listen to the sounds around you. The sound of my voice, the hum of the room, a distant noise. Between these sounds, can you hear the silence? The silence is not an absence of sound. It is the canvas upon which all sound is painted. That silence is a doorway to the stillness. Now, turn your attention to your thoughts. Watch them as they arise. You do not need to stop them. Simply notice them. And notice the gaps, the tiny moments of quiet between one thought and the next. In those gaps, for a fraction of a second, you are free from the stream of thinking. In those gaps, you are simply present. You are the sky, unobscured. That is the stillness. It is here. Now, this stillness, this sky of your being, is not a dead, empty void. That is the ego's interpretation, for the ego fears this emptiness above all else. In truth, this stillness is vibrantly alive. It is a field of infinite potentiality and profound intelligence. It is the source of all true creativity, intuition, and insight. When you have a sudden flash of inspiration, a brilliant idea that seems to come from nowhere, it has come from this space of no mind. When you feel a deep, irrational sense of peace or a wave of love for no particular reason, it is the feeling of your own essential nature, the sky, breaking through the clouds. This stillness is whole and complete. It needs nothing. It wants nothing. It lacks nothing. It is the peace that passes all understanding, because it is not the result of understanding anything. It is the peace that arises when understanding, thinking, and striving all fall away. When you begin to anchor yourself in this sky of awareness, your relationship to your life transforms. The problems may still arise, the storm clouds will still gather. Life will continue to present challenges, losses, and uncertainties. But they no longer have the power to define you or to destroy your inner peace. You are no longer a small, fragile boat being tossed on a stormy sea. You are the vast, deep ocean itself, which remains calm in its depths no matter how turbulent the surface becomes. You can observe the drama of your own life with a newfound clarity and wisdom, because you are no longer lost in the drama. You can feel anger rise without becoming an angry person. You can feel sadness without collapsing into despair. You are the loving, spacious container for it all. This is true strength. This is unshakable peace. It is the discovery of the inner sanctuary, the temple of silence that you can retreat to at any moment, simply by dropping out of the story in your head and into the feeling of being present. But if this is our true nature, if this vast, peaceful sky is what we are, why is it so difficult to remain there? Why do we constantly forget? Why do we get pulled back, time and time again, into the drama and turmoil of the clouds? It is because there is a structure within us that is made of clouds. There is a false self, constructed entirely from thought, memory, and identification, that thrives on the storm. It feeds on problems, it lives for conflict, and it defines itself by its story of suffering. The stillness we have just touched upon is a direct threat to its existence. For in the silent, formless expanse of the sky, this constructed self cannot survive. It dissolves. This structure, this phantom self that fears the silence, is the ego. It is the armor we have built around our hearts, cloud by cloud, thought by thought. And to truly abide in the peace of the sky, we must be willing to look at this armor, to understand its nature, and to feel the heaviness of its grip. We must now face the guardian of the storm, the master of illusion. We have felt the stillness of the sky, the vast, silent awareness that is our true home. And yet, we find ourselves pulled from this peace, dragged back into the turbulent weather of the mind. What is this force of gravity that pulls us so powerfully back into the storm of thought? It is the ego. We must now look at this phantom self, not as an enemy to be vanquished, but as a mechanism to be understood with compassion and clarity. For the ego is nothing more than a suit of armor, forged in the fires of our past to protect a tender, vulnerable self that we long ago forgot how to trust. The ego is the conditioned mind. It is the story of me. This story is a collage, pieced together from our name, our history, our accomplishments and failures, the roles we play as a parent, a worker, a friend, the beliefs we hold, and the opinions we defend. It is the sense of a separate, isolated self contained within this body, looking out at a world of others. This construct is not inherently evil. It began as a necessary survival tool, a way to navigate the complexities of human society. But a tool, when used unconsciously, can become a prison. The suit of armor, at first, feels like protection. It deflects the barbs of criticism and the pain of rejection. It gives us a sense of identity and solidity in a chaotic world. But we have worn this armor for so long that we have forgotten we are wearing it. Its metal has fused to our skin. We believe we are the armor, and this armor is heavy. It is rigid, restricting our movements, limiting our ability to feel, to connect, to love fully. It keeps the pain out, yes, but it also keeps the joy out. It isolates us in a cold, metallic shell of our own making. This armor requires constant maintenance and fuel to sustain its existence. Its primary fuel is thought. The ego cannot exist in the silent stillness of the present moment. It lives entirely in the realms of past and future, for that is where its story resides. It feeds on the endless stream of mental commentary, judgment, and analysis. It also feeds voraciously on comparison. The armor is polished when it feels superior to another's armor, and it is dented when it feels inferior. This endless cycle of better than and less than is the source of envy, arrogance, and the pervasive anxiety of not measuring up. It also feeds on grievance. The ego loves a good story of how it has been wronged. It clings to past hurts, replaying them endlessly, because these grievances reinforce its identity as a victim and give it a sense of righteousness. A person who has completely let go of all grievances finds that their ego has very little to hold on to. Of all the ego's survival strategies, its most cherished and most destructive is the need to be right. This is the central pillar that holds the entire suit of armor together. The heaviness of being right is a palpable energy. Feel it in your own life. Recall a time you were in a disagreement, perhaps over something trivial, a political opinion, the correct way to do a task, the memory of an event. Feel the physiological shift in your body as the need to be right takes over. The jaw tightens, the breath becomes shallow, the body tenses, ready for battle. A wave of aggressive energy rises up. In that moment, connection to the other person is severed. Listening ceases. Your entire being is marshaled for a single purpose: to defend your position and prove the other wrong. When you win, there is a fleeting moment of satisfaction. It is the ego feeling its own solidity, its own superiority. The armor has been reinforced. But what is the cost of this victory? A residue of separation remains. A subtle wall has been erected between you and the other person. You have chosen to be right over being connected. You have chosen the armor over the embrace. This compulsive need for rightness is the source of endless conflict, from minor domestic disputes to major international wars. It is the ego defending its territory, which is not a patch of land, but a mental position. To the ego, to be wrong is a form of death. It is to have a vital piece of its constructed identity crumble. Therefore, it will fight to the bitter end to protect its viewpoints, because it believes its very survival is at stake. It does not know that your true being, the vast sky of awareness, is never threatened by being right or wrong. The sky does not care about opinions. To let go of the need to be right is to begin the process of unbuckling the armor. It is a terrifying prospect for the ego, but it is the only path to true peace. Imagine a king who is utterly obsessed with the security of his kingdom. He builds towering walls and deep moats. He hires the fiercest soldiers and wins every battle, vanquishing all his enemies. He sits upon a magnificent throne, and everyone in the land agrees that he is the most powerful and righteous king of all. But his fortress is so impenetrable that no one can get in. His righteousness is so absolute that it creates a field of fear around him. He sits alone in his grand hall, the victor of every argument, the ruler of an empty kingdom. He has his power, he has his rightness, but he has no love, no connection, no joy, no peace. He is a prisoner of his own defenses. This lonely king is the ego. It achieves all its goals, only to find itself utterly alone, trapped inside the very armor it built for its own protection. You can begin to recognize the patterns of this lonely king in your own daily life. Notice the urge to complain, which is the ego strengthening itself by finding fault in a situation or a person. Notice the impulse to gossip, which is the ego feeling superior by discussing the perceived failings of another. Notice the subtle feeling of defensiveness that arises when someone criticizes you or disagrees with you. That is the sound of the armor being struck. Notice the need to have more money, more recognition, more possessions, which is the ego trying to add layers to itself to feel more real, more substantial. See these patterns not with self-judgment, but with the curious, detached interest of a scientist observing a phenomenon. You can say to yourself, there is the ego doing its thing. How interesting. This simple, non-judgmental observation is the light of awareness. And in this light, you begin to see the armor for what it is. You start to feel its immense, suffocating weight. So, how do we remove this armor that has been fused to us for a lifetime? We do not pry it off with force. We do not declare war on the ego. For the warrior who fights the ego is just another costume worn by the ego itself. It loves the drama of a good inner battle. To fight it is to strengthen it. The way is not through conflict, but through dissolution. You must introduce an element, an energy, that the hard, brittle metal of the ego cannot withstand. An energy that does not fight the armor, but simply makes it irrelevant. What is the solvent for this hardened shell of righteousness and fear? It is softness, it is vulnerability, it is the willingness to not know. It is the quiet power of a gentle heart. In a world that prizes the armor of certainty and strength, choosing the path of gentleness is not an act of weakness. It is the most courageous and radical act of rebellion against the tyranny of the ego. It is the beginning of our true liberation. We have felt the crushing weight of the ego's armor, the cold isolation of its defensive walls. We have seen how its desperate need to be right creates a world of conflict and separation. Faced with such a formidable internal fortress, the mind's first impulse is to look for an equally formidable weapon. It wants to find a stronger argument, a more powerful force, a bigger hammer to shatter the armor. But this is the ego's trick. To lure you into a battle it will always win, because the warrior is just the ego in another disguise. The path to freedom is not through more force, but through its radical opposite. It is found in the most misunderstood, underestimated, and revolutionary power available to a human being, the power of a gentle heart. In the world forged by the collective ego, gentleness is equated with weakness. Softness is seen as naivety. Vulnerability is considered a liability. The world tells you to harden yourself, develop a thick skin, be cynical, for it is realistic, be aggressive, for that is how you get ahead. Build your walls high, trust no one completely, and always be ready for a fight. This is the gospel of the armor. It is a worldview built on fear, scarcity, and separation. To consciously choose gentleness in the face of this relentless conditioning is not a passive surrender. It is a profound and courageous act of rebellion. It is a quiet declaration of war, not on any person, but on the very paradigm of fear itself. You are choosing to withdraw your energy from the world's madness and to invest it in a different kind of reality. Let us redefine this power. Gentleness is not being a doormat. It is not the absence of boundaries. It is not suppressing your truth to please others. True gentleness is an expression of immense inner strength. It is the strength to stay open when everything around you is screaming at you to shut down. It is the wisdom to know that a harsh word may win an argument, but a soft answer can change a heart. It is the courage to meet aggression not with more aggression, but with a calm, unwavering presence that refuses to fuel the fire. Imagine a great stone boulder, the embodiment of the ego's hardness and stubbornness. You can strike it with a steel hammer 1,000 times, and you may only succeed in shattering the hammer or creating a few insignificant chips. But allow a gentle stream of water to flow over it, day after day, year after year. That persistent, soft, yielding water will eventually wear the mighty boulder down to smooth pebbles, to fine grains of sand. It does not fight the stone. It simply embraces it, surrounds it, and dissolves it with its relentless softness. This is the power of a gentle heart. Consider another image. See the vast, gray, lifeless expanse of concrete poured over the earth. It is the ego's ideal landscape, flat, controlled, hard, and impenetrable. Nothing can get through. Yet, somewhere, in a tiny forgotten crack, a single blade of grass begins its work. It is the embodiment of softness, pliability, and life. It does not attack the concrete. It does not curse its hardness. It simply follows its own nature, gently but persistently pushing upwards towards the light. That soft, green shoot possesses a life force that the dead, brittle concrete cannot comprehend. And it will, eventually, find its way through. Your gentle heart is that blade of grass. The hardened, cynical world is the concrete. To choose gentleness is to align yourself with the unstoppable power of life itself, which always, in the end, overcomes the structures of death and rigidity. This rebellion takes place in the small, ordinary moments of your life. It happens when a coworker speaks to you with anger or frustration. The ego's armored response is to become defensive, to fire back with your own anger, to defend your righteousness. The gentle rebellion is to pause, to breathe, to see the pain or fear that is driving their anger. It is to respond from a place of calm, not to condone their behavior, but to refuse to participate in the cycle of reactivity. You do not offer the ego the fight that it craves. This disarms it. An ego spoiling for a fight does not know what to do with a calm, open, compassionate presence. You are the soft water flowing over their hard stone. The most critical front in this rebellion, however, is the one within you. It is the rebellion against your own inner critic. For decades, you have allowed this harsh, judgmental voice to rule your inner world. You have met its attacks with either resigned belief or with frantic, anxious self-defense. The gentle rebellion is to do neither. When the voice of judgment rises, telling you that you have failed, that you are unworthy, that you have made a terrible mistake, you learn to meet it with a radical softness. You can say to that voice, "I hear you. Thank you for trying to protect me, but I am choosing to be kind to myself now." You wrap the harsh thought in the warmth of your own compassion. You treat yourself with the same tenderness you would offer to a beloved child who is hurting. This act of conscious self-compassion is the most potent solvent for the ego's armor. The armor is forged in self-rejection. It dissolves in self-love. Every time you choose a gentle response over a harsh reaction, you cast a vote. You are voting for a different kind of world. You are refusing to add more of the poison of anger, judgment, and fear into the collective atmosphere. Instead, you are actively transmitting a different frequency, the frequency of peace, of understanding, of connection. It may seem like a small, insignificant act, but it is not. The universe, the field of consciousness, responds to this energy. You become a walking sanctuary, a point of stillness in a chaotic world. People may not understand it, but they will feel it. They will feel the peace that emanates from someone who is not at war with themselves or the world. You become a blade of grass breaking through the concrete, reminding others of the possibility of a different way. This is the nature of the rebellion. It is quiet, internal, and relentlessly persistent. It requires more courage than any act of outward aggression. It is the courage to be vulnerable, to be open, to be soft in a world that tells you this is dangerous. It is the deep, intuitive knowing that softness is not the opposite of strength, but its most refined and powerful expression. But to maintain this open, gentle state, we must address the fundamental mechanism that keeps the armor in place. The armor is built and maintained by grasping, by holding on. The ego is a clenched fist, tightly gripping its beliefs, its identity, its past hurts, and its need for control. A gentle heart cannot be a clenched heart. An open palm cannot be a fist. Therefore, the first and most practical discipline of this gentle rebellion is to learn how to consciously, deliberately, and repeatedly open that hand. We must learn the sacred and liberating practice of simply letting go. We have arrived at a profound turning point. We have seen that the path of the gentle heart is a rebellion against the world's hardness. And now we must learn the first practical skill of this rebellion. It is the very foundation of inner peace, the key that unlocks the shackles of the past, and the discipline that makes a gentle life possible. It is the sacred art of letting go. For the armor of the ego, as we have seen, is held together by the act of grasping. The mind is a clenched fist, and its knuckles are white from the strain of holding on. To embark on this path, we must learn, with great patience and compassion, how to unclench that fist. Take a moment and feel this in your own body. Consciously make a fist with your hand. Squeeze it tightly. Feel the tension in your fingers, your palm, your wrist, your forearm. Feel how the muscles are strained, how energy is being consumed simply to maintain this state of tension. This is a perfect physical representation of the mind clinging to a thought, a belief, or an emotion. It is a state of resistance, of struggle. It is a declaration that says, I will not allow things to be as they are. Now, slowly, deliberately, open your hand. Feel the release of tension. Feel the blood flow back into your fingers. Feel the immediate sense of ease, of relief. That feeling of release is the feeling of letting go. It is a return to our natural state, which is one of openness and ease, not one of tension and contraction. What is it that we are holding on to so tightly? We are rarely clinging to physical objects. The things that truly weigh us down, the things that keep our spiritual fists clenched, are intangible. They are ghosts. They are thought forms that we have mistaken for solid realities. First, we cling to our grievances. These are the cherished stories of how we have been wronged, the memory of the betrayal, the insult, the injustice. We play these stories over and over in the theater of our minds, each time adding another layer of righteous indignation. We believe that by holding on to the anger, we are somehow punishing the person who hurt us. But this is the greatest of all illusions. There is an old saying, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. The other person is likely living their life, oblivious to your inner turmoil, while you are the one continuously searing your own soul with the flames of your resentment. Letting go of a grievance is not for them, it is for you. It is the act of dropping the hot coal so that your own hand can heal. We also cling to our expectations. We carry around a detailed, rigid blueprint of how life is supposed to unfold, how our career should progress, how our partner should behave, how our children should act, how our journey should look. When reality inevitably deviates from this blueprint, we suffer. Our suffering comes not from the event itself, but from the gap between the event and our expectation of it. We are clinging to a picture of a life that does not exist, and in doing so, we fail to see the beauty and the lessons in the life that is actually happening. We are like a person demanding that the sun rise in the west and spending every day in a state of frustration and disappointment when it continues to rise in the east. Letting go of expectations does not mean having no goals or desires. It means holding them lightly. It means being committed to your path, but flexible in your approach, trusting that life may have a plan for you that is far grander than the one your limited mind could conceive. And we cling to our identities. The ego's favorite possessions are its labels. I am a successful person. I am a victim. I am an intellectual. I am an anxious person. We grasp these identities so tightly because they give us a sense of self, but they are cages. If you cling to the identity of a successful person, you will live in constant fear of failure. If you cling to the identity of a victim, you will unconsciously seek out situations that reinforce this story. Letting go of these identities is terrifying, because the ego asks, without them, who am I? The answer is that you are the vast, open space in which all identities can come and go. You are the sky, not a particular cloud. Letting go is the act of surrendering the limited label in exchange for the limitless reality. The root of all this clinging is the illusion of control. The ego believes that if it just holds on tightly enough, if it manages every variable, if it anticipates every outcome, it can prevent pain and guarantee pleasure. It is a refusal to accept the fundamental nature of life, which is one of constant, uncontrollable change. Life flows. It is a river. The ego, in its fear, tries to build a dam to stop the river, or tries to force the river into a perfectly straight channel. The energy required for this is immense. It is the source of all our stress, all our anxiety, all our exhaustion. It is the clenched fist, fighting the current. To let go is to stop fighting the river. It is to get into a boat, pick up the oars, and learn to navigate the currents with skill and awareness. You do not control the river, but you can learn to dance with it. It is to trust the flow of life. It is to understand, in your very bones, that the tighter you squeeze, the less you control. The more you relax and open, the more you can respond with grace and wisdom. It is vital to understand what letting go is not. It is not apathy. It is not declaring, "I don't care anymore," in a tone of cynical defeat. That is simply another form of armor, a shield of indifference. True letting go is deeply engaged and caring, but free of attachment to the outcome. It is also not forgetting. You will not develop amnesia about a past hurt. The memory will still be there, but it will have lost its emotional charge. It will be like looking at a scar from an old wound. You see the mark and remember the event, but it no longer hurts to the touch. It has been integrated into your story, but it no longer defines you. And most importantly, letting go is not condoning. It is not saying that what someone did was okay. You can let go of your resentment towards someone while still recognizing that their behavior was harmful and that you need to maintain a healthy distance from them. You can forgive them for your own peace, without ever needing to trust them again. You are dropping the hot coal, not inviting the person who gave it to you back into your home. So, how do we perform this sacred act? It begins, always, with awareness. You cannot drop something if you do not realize you are carrying it. Throughout your day, practice checking in with yourself. Ask, what am I clinging to right now? Feel for the tension in your body, the tightness in your chest, the knot in your stomach. These are the physical signatures of a clenched fist in the mind. The second step is to acknowledge what you find without judgment. Name the thought form. Ah, there is the story of my childhood. There is my fear of being alone. There is my anger at my friend. Simply naming it brings it out of the shadows of the unconscious mind and into the light of your awareness. You see it for what it is, a thought, a story, an energy pattern, not you. The third and most crucial step is to feel the associated emotion fully in the body. The mind's habit is to either suppress the feeling or to spin a massive story around it. The path of letting go is the middle way. You bring your full, loving attention to the physical sensation of the emotion. If it is grief, you feel the ache in your heart. If it is anger, you feel the heat in your chest and stomach. If it is fear, you feel the constriction in your throat. You simply breathe into the sensation. You become a space of unconditional acceptance for that energy. You allow it to be there without needing it to change and without feeding it with more thoughts. You feel it, but you do not feed it. This is the great secret. When you allow an emotion to be felt fully and physically without creating a mental story, it cannot sustain itself. Energy needs to move. By feeling it, you allow it to complete its cycle and pass through you, like a weather system moving through the sky. Then comes the conscious act of release. This can be a simple, silent intention. As you breathe out, you can inwardly say, I release this. I let this go. I choose peace over this feeling. You can visualize the clenched fist of your mind slowly uncurling, finger by finger, until the palm is open and relaxed. You can imagine the heavy energy of the grievance as a dark, heavy stone in your hands, and you can consciously visualize yourself dropping it to the ground. Find what works for you. This is not a one-time magical fix. It is a practice. It is a muscle. The first few times you try to let go of a deeply held grievance, it will feel impossible. The mind will immediately snatch it back up, saying, "No, I need this story. It's who I am." Be gentle with yourself. Every time you notice you are clinging again, you simply practice again. You acknowledge, you feel, you release. Each time, your grip becomes a little looser. Each time, the story loses a little more of its power over you. The result of this practice is a profound and palpable lightness. A spaciousness opens up within you. The energy that was once consumed by holding on to the past is now available to you in the present moment. Your heart, no longer burdened by the weight of old stones, feels lighter, more buoyant. The open hand of the mind is not an empty hand. It is an open hand, ready to receive the gifts of the present moment. Gifts you could not see when your fists were clenched. You become available to life in a new way. And in this new, unburdened spaciousness, something remarkable begins to happen. With your own story no longer consuming all of your attention, you find that you can finally, truly, see others. Your heart, now free from the prison of its own grievances, has the capacity to feel the reality of another's life, another's pain, another's joy. The open hand that has let go of its own suffering becomes the open heart that is ready to embrace the world. This is the birth of true compassion. The fist has unclenched. The hot coal of grievance has been dropped. A space has been created in the landscape of the heart, a quiet, fertile clearing where there was once only the dense, thorny undergrowth of past hurts and future fears. This spaciousness is the great reward of letting go, but it is not an end point. It is a beginning. It is the preparation of the soil for the most beautiful flower that can grow in the human soul. This flower is compassion, for it is only when we are no longer obsessively consumed with the drama of our own story that we have the capacity to truly read the story of another. We must first understand what compassion is not. In the common language of the ego, compassion is often confused with pity. But pity is a counterfeit emotion. It is a subtle act of separation. When you pity someone, you look down from your perceived position of strength or stability upon their perceived weakness or misfortune. Pity says, "How sad for you, over there, in your unfortunate situation. It reinforces the walls between me and you." It is a consolation prize that secretly whispers, "I am glad I am not you." It is an act of the ego solidifying its own position by observing another's perceived lack. It offers no true connection. It offers a judgment disguised as kindness. True compassion is the shattering of this illusion of separation. The word itself offers a clue. It comes from the Latin roots.com, meaning with, and pati, meaning to suffer. It is not to feel for someone, but to feel with them. It is the recognition of a shared humanity. It is the visceral understanding that says, "I know the feeling you are feeling. I may not know your specific circumstances, but I know the texture of your pain, for I have felt that same texture within my own heart. Compassion is not looking down from a height. It is meeting another at eye level. It is the resonance of one heart with another, a shared frequency of being. It is the brave and tender acknowledgement that we are in this together. To grasp this fully, imagine yourself standing on a shore, looking out at the ocean. You see thousands of waves. Some are huge and powerful, crashing onto the shore with great force. Some are small and gentle, lapping softly at the sand. Each wave appears to be a separate, individual entity. It has a beginning and an end. It has a unique shape and character. This is the level of the ego, the level of personality. On this level, we see ourselves and others as separate waves. We see a me wave and a you wave. We compare their sizes, their strengths, their paths. We see them as competitors or strangers. Compassion is the shift in perception from seeing only the wave to knowing the ocean. It is the realization that while each wave is unique in its form, every single one is made of the exact same water. The same one ocean is expressing itself in a myriad of different ways. The angry crashing wave and the gentle lapping wave are not, in their essence, different. They are both temporary manifestations of the same vast, deep, mysterious sea. To feel compassion is to experience this truth directly. It is the ocean of your own being, recognizing itself in the wave of another. You look at another person and you see past the temporary shape of their personality, their beliefs, their actions, and you feel the shared essence of the water, the shared consciousness that animates you both. With this understanding, your perception of human behavior begins to radically change. You begin to see that all harmful actions, all cruelty, all anger, all greed are the actions of a wave that is in turmoil. It is a wave that has forgotten it is the ocean, and in its feeling of separation and fear, it thrashes about, often crashing into other waves. A person who is hurting you is a person who is in deep pain. Their aggression is a cry for help, twisted into a weapon by the ego. Their arrogance is a mask for a profound sense of inadequacy. Their cruelty is the outward expression of a deep inner wound. Compassion is the ability to see this. It is not to excuse the harmful behavior. The crashing wave may still need to be avoided. Boundaries are still necessary. But the inner response is no longer one of reactive anger or judgment. It transforms into a deep, sad, wise understanding. You see the destructive form of the wave, but you also feel the pain of the ocean within it. This is what it means to see your reflection in others. The person who irritates you the most, the one who pushes all of your buttons, is often a perfect mirror for a part of yourself that you have disowned or repressed. Their arrogance mirrors your own hidden arrogance, or perhaps your deep-seated fear of not being good enough. Their anger mirrors a rage you have not allowed yourself to feel. They are a gift, an opportunity to see a shadow aspect of your own consciousness. In compassion, you can look at them and think, there is a part of me behaving in that way. This brings humility and removes the self-righteousness upon which judgment depends. Likewise, when you see another person suffering, a stranger on the news or a friend in crisis, the heartbreak you feel is a recognition of your own vulnerability. You are seeing your own capacity for pain reflected in their experience. You look at them and know that you are made of the same fragile, resilient, human stuff. You understand that with a different set of life circumstances, a different series of events, their story could very well be your story. This is the death of otherness. There is only us. The same consciousness that looks out through your eyes is the consciousness that looks out through theirs. The awareness is one, only the stories are different. Compassion, then, is not a passive feeling but an active practice. It is the practice of looking for the ocean within every wave. When you speak with someone, especially someone you find difficult, can you listen beneath their words? Can you listen for the feeling, the unmet need, the hidden fear that is driving their communication? This is compassionate listening. It is seeking to understand, not to be right. It is also an internal practice. You can practice silently wishing others well. See a stranger on the street, and in your heart, think, "May you be happy. May you be free from suffering." Do this for people you love. Do this for people you are neutral towards. And most radically, do this for people you actively dislike. This practice begins to rewire the neural pathways of your brain away from judgment and towards connection. You are training yourself to see the shared water, not just the separate wave. As you cultivate this compassionate gaze and turn it outwards towards the world, an inevitable and beautiful thing begins to happen. You cannot help but turn that same gaze back upon yourself. As you learn to see the pain behind the harmful actions of others, you are forced to reevaluate your own past. You remember the times you were unkind, the times you acted out of anger, the times you caused hurt. But now, instead of seeing them through the harsh, unforgiving lens of the inner critic, you begin to see them with the same sad, wise understanding you have cultivated for others. You realize that you too were a wave in turmoil. You too were acting from a place of your own pain, your own fear, your own profound ignorance at that time. You see that you were doing the best you could with the level of consciousness you had available. This realization does not excuse your past actions, but it places them in a new context, a context of shared human fallibility, and it reveals the next, most crucial step on this journey. You cannot truly offer the gift of compassion to the world from a heart that is at war with itself. The circle of compassion is only complete when it includes the one person you have spent a lifetime judging. The sacred work must now turn fully inward to the most intimate and challenging act of grace, the act of forgiving yourself. The circle of compassion expands outward, embracing the difficult stranger, the suffering friend, the angry adversary. We learn to look past the turbulent surface of the wave and see the ocean of shared being within them. And now, that circle must complete its journey. It must curve back to its origin point. For there is one person you have been judging more harshly, more relentlessly, and for far longer than anyone else. There is one person whose every mistake has been recorded in permanent ink, whose every failing has been replayed in a courtroom of the mind where you are both the unforgiving prosecutor and the eternal defendant. That person is you, and the final frontier of compassion, the most challenging and essential act of grace, is the sacred act of forgiving yourself. We live with an inner tyrant, an accountant of shame who keeps a flawless ledger of our every misstep, every unkind word we have ever spoken, every selfish act, every moment of weakness or cowardice, every time we let ourselves or another person down. It is all there, stored in the archives of the mind, ready to be presented as evidence against us at any moment. This relentless self-condemnation is a poison we drink every day, a low-grade hum of unworthiness that underlies so much of our anxiety and unhappiness. We believe, on some deep conditioned level, that this self-flagellation is necessary, that it is a form of justice, or a way to keep ourselves from making the same mistakes again. But this is a lie. It is the ego's most insidious trap. To understand why self-forgiveness is not a selfish indulgence, but a spiritual necessity, imagine that your heart is a vessel, a cup from which you offer water to the world. If that cup is filled with the bitter poison of self-loathing and guilt, then every offering you make will be tainted. Your acts of kindness will be tinged with the need for validation. Your love will be shadowed by the fear of not being worthy of love in return. Your gentleness towards others will feel hollow if you are in a state of constant, brutal warfare with yourself. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot pour pure healing water for another from a vessel that is unclean. The act of forgiving yourself is the sacred act of cleansing your own cup. It is the essential purification that allows your compassion to flow freely and purely, without the bitter aftertaste of your own unresolved pain. It is vital here to distinguish between guilt and remorse. Guilt is of the ego. It is a state of being. It proclaims, I am bad. It is a final judgment upon your character, a brand seared into your identity. Guilt is backward-looking and paralyzing. It keeps you trapped in the prison of the past, forever chained to your mistake. It is a story the ego tells about your fundamental unworthiness. Remorse, on the other hand, is of the soul. It is a judgment upon an action, not upon the self. It says, I did something bad. Remorse acknowledges the harm caused by an action. It is forward-looking and motivating. It asks, what have I learned from this? How can I make amends? How can I ensure I do not repeat this behavior? Self-forgiveness is the alchemical process of transmuting the leaden weight of paralyzing guilt into the golden wisdom of motivating remorse, and then releasing the need to carry it any further. Forgiving yourself does not mean erasing the past or pretending a mistake did not happen. It is not an act of forgetting. It is an act of profound, compassionate recontextualizing. It is the ability to look at the person you were in the past, the person who made that choice, who said that thing, who acted from that place of fear or ignorance with the same wise, understanding eyes you have learned to use for others. You look back and you see that younger version of yourself, not as a villain, but as a person who was doing the best they could with the level of consciousness they had at that time. You see their hidden pain, their unmet needs, their deep conditioning. You recognize that you are not that person anymore. You have learned, you have grown, your awareness has expanded. Forgiveness is the graceful act of acknowledging your own evolution. It is cutting the cord that tethers your present self to a version of you that no longer exists. Think of the wounds of guilt and shame as self-inflicted. With every replay of the memory, with every lash of the inner critic, you are picking at an old scab, preventing the wound from ever truly healing. It remains raw, tender, and infected. Self-forgiveness is the decision to finally stop the self-harm. It is the application of a soothing, healing balm. It is the act of gently cleansing the wound, wrapping it in the clean bandage of your own compassion, and then allowing it to heal. It is the ultimate act of kindness to yourself, a recognition that you, like all beings, are worthy of peace. So how do we begin this tender process? It is not a purely intellectual exercise. It is a practice of the heart. Begin by finding a quiet space. Allow a memory to surface, one that still carries the charge of guilt or shame. Do not force it. Just allow one to present itself. Now, instead of immediately collapsing into the familiar story of your badness, try a different approach. Visualize that younger version of you, right in that moment from the past. See yourself there. See the fear in your own eyes. See the confusion, the pain, the arrogance that was likely a mask for deep insecurity. Now, from your present place of greater wisdom, speak to that younger self in your heart. You might say, I see you. I see how much you were hurting. I see that you didn't know a better way. I forgive you. You have carried this burden for long enough. It is time to let it go. Breathe into your heart and visualize yourself giving that younger you a compassionate embrace. Feel the separation between your present self and your past self. You are the loving witness, not the eternal perpetrator. Sometimes, a simple ritual can help to make this inner shift more concrete. You might write down the specific act you are forgiving yourself for on a small piece of paper. Write it all out, all the painful details. Then, in a safe manner, you can burn the paper. As you watch the smoke rise, see it as the energy of that old story dissolving, being released from your being and transformed by the elements. As you do so, you can affirm to yourself, I release the person I was. I embrace the person I am becoming. My past is a lesson, not a life sentence. This is not about spiritual bypassing or avoiding responsibility. It is about taking responsibility for your own healing, so that you can show up more fully and authentically in the present. The ego will resist this. The part of you that is identified with the story of being a flawed person or a great sinner will fight for its survival. It may tell you that you don't deserve to be forgiven, that your self-punishment is noble. See this for what it is, another egoic trap. There is a strange arrogance in clinging to your own guilt. It makes your story special. It keeps you as the central character in a grand drama of transgression and punishment. But the truth is, your mistakes are not that special. They are part of the shared, messy, beautiful, and imperfect tapestry of human experience. To forgive yourself is to accept your ordinary humanity. And in this acceptance, we find the doorway to the next great realization. It is the doorway to true humility. For when you are no longer obsessed with the story of your own badness, or for that matter, the story of your own goodness, you are finally free from the most burdensome task of all, the task of thinking about yourself so much. Having walked through the sacred gateway of self-forgiveness, we arrive in a new landscape. The heavy chains of guilt have been dissolved, and the story of our own special badness has been laid to rest. In this clearing, we are no longer defined by our past failures. But the ego is a creature of immense subtlety. Having lost its identity as the great sinner, it will eagerly try to construct a new one, the identity of the great spiritual adept, the one who is now wise and enlightened. It will seek to replace the armor of self-loathing with the armor of self-righteousness. And the antidote to both these states of self-obsession, the force that dissolves all armor, is the quiet, spacious, and profoundly misunderstood virtue of humility. We must begin by sweeping away the counterfeit version of humility that the ego itself has created. False humility is not humility at all. It is a disguise worn by an insecure ego. It is the person who constantly puts themselves down, secretly hoping for you to contradict them. It is the artist who says, "Oh, my work is nothing," while desperately craving your praise. This is not humility, it is a strategy. It is a form of manipulation designed to fish for compliments and to manage others' perceptions. This is the act of thinking less of yourself. But notice the key words, thinking of yourself. Whether you are puffing yourself up with arrogance or putting yourself down with false modesty, the subject of the sentence is still I. The spotlight of your attention is still fixed firmly upon yourself. It is just another chapter in the endless story of me, and it is exhausting. True humility is something else entirely. It is a different dimension of being. It is not thinking less of yourself. It is, quite simply, thinking of yourself less. It is the liberation that comes when you are no longer the central character in the epic drama of your own life. It is the profound relief of stepping off the stage and joining the audience, watching the great mystery of life unfold with curiosity and awe, rather than with the constant, anxious need to manage your own performance. It is not a denial of your strengths or talents, but a simple recognition that they flow through you, not from you. The ego believes it is the author of the poem, the painter of the masterpiece. The humble heart knows it is the pen, the brush. It is the channel, not the source. Consider a great, ancient tree. It stands in silent majesty, its roots deep in the earth, its branches reaching for the sky. It provides shade for the weary traveler, a home for the birds, and its very existence purifies the air we breathe. It is a being of immense strength, beauty, and service. But the tree does not think about its own greatness. It does not concern itself with its own humility. It is not engaged in a mental debate about its status relative to the other trees in the forest. It is simply, totally, and completely being a tree. Its grandeur and its humility are not qualities it has cultivated. They are the natural, effortless expression of its authentic being. True humility is this state of unself-conscious presence. You are so engaged in the act of living that the one who is living disappears from view. Let us use another image. The ego is like an ornate, elaborate stained glass window. It is full of complex patterns and brilliant colors, telling a dramatic story of its own history. When light shines through it, the light is broken up and colored by the patterns of the glass. The light itself is secondary. What you notice is the beautiful, intricate window. The window proclaims, Look at me. See how I transform the light. True humility, on the other hand, is like a perfectly clean, clear pane of glass. It is so transparent, so free of distortion, that it becomes almost invisible. The pure, unfiltered light of life, of awareness, of creativity streams through it without impediment. Its purpose is not to be seen, but to allow the light to be seen in its full glory. It does not say, "Look at me." It simply says, "Look." The humble person becomes a clear channel. They are no longer a filter, coloring all of life's experiences with the story of me. They are a conduit. This state of being manifests in wonderfully practical ways. The truly humble person can learn from anyone, because they are not defending a fragile identity of being an expert. They can celebrate the successes of others with genuine joy, because another person's good fortune does not diminish their own sense of self. They can admit they were wrong without it feeling like a personal annihilation, because their identity is not fused with their opinions. They can laugh at themselves with ease, because they do not take the temporary character of me so seriously. They can perform an act of kindness without needing any acknowledgement or reward, because the act itself is the reward. The joy is in the giving, not in the credit received for it. The freedom that this brings is almost impossible to overstate. Consider the sheer amount of energy you expend every single day on what we could call ego management. The energy spent worrying about what others think of you. The energy spent crafting the perfect image on social media. The energy spent defending your opinions, justifying your actions, and maintaining your grievances. The energy spent comparing yourself to others, feeling either superior or inferior. It is a full-time job, and it is utterly draining. To think of yourself less is to resign from this exhausting job. It is to let that massive expenditure of life force flow back into you, to be used for creativity, for love, for joy, for simple presence. Life ceases to be a performance to be perfected and becomes an adventure to be lived. The world becomes more vibrant, more interesting, when you are no longer viewing it through the dense filter of your own self-importance. This spaciousness, this freedom from self-obsession, is the fertile ground for our next great discovery. For there is one activity that is rendered almost impossible by a mind that is constantly thinking of itself. That activity is listening, true listening. Most of the time, when we believe we are listening to another person, we are not. We are hearing their words, but our mind is furiously active. It is filtering their words through our own beliefs. It is formulating our counter-argument. It is waiting for them to pause so we can share our own, more interesting story. It is judging, analyzing, and preparing. The entire conversation is happening in reference to me. But when the mind grows quiet, when the need to be the main character subsides, a profound silence opens up within you. In the clear, selfless space of humility, you are no longer the center of the universe. And from this open, silent, humble space, you can finally hear. You can hear the world. You can hear another person's heart. You can hear the whispers of the universe. The practice of listening becomes the natural expression of a humble spirit. It becomes a form of prayer. The constant, exhausting work of managing the self has ceased. The inner narrator, the voice of the ego that once dominated the landscape of the mind, has fallen quiet, having been softened by forgiveness and humbled by the recognition of a vaster reality. In the wake of its silence, a new quality of being emerges. A profound, spacious stillness begins to permeate your awareness. This stillness is not empty. It is exquisitely alive. It is the fertile ground upon which true connection can finally take root. For in this quietude you discover the capacity for one of the most potent, healing, and misunderstood spiritual practices available to humankind, the art of true listening. We must first draw a clear and crucial distinction between the biological act of hearing and the spiritual act of listening. Hearing is passive. It is the function of the ears, the reception of sound waves. For most of our lives, What we call listening is merely hearing, accompanied by the ceaseless activity of the unquiet mind. While another person is speaking, we are not truly with them. We are busy. We are judging their words, comparing them to our own experiences, formulating our response, and waiting for our turn to speak. We are filtering their reality through the dense story of me. This is not listening. It is a form of conversational combat, or at best, a transactional exchange of information where both parties remain isolated within their own mental worlds. True listening is something else entirely. It is an active, conscious, and total giving of yourself. It is the decision to set aside your own story, your own opinions, your own needs, and to create a sacred space with your attention. Imagine your awareness as an empty vessel, a clean, silent, open cup. When you truly listen, you offer this empty vessel to another person. You invite them to pour their thoughts, their feelings, their reality into that space without any judgment, interruption, or correction from you. You are not listening to respond. You are listening to understand. You are not listening to fix. You are listening to witness. In that moment, you are offering them one of the rarest and most healing gifts in the modern world, the gift of your undivided presence. To be truly heard in this way is a profoundly validating experience. For many people, it may be something they have never encountered before. In the safe, loving space of your silent attention, they feel seen, they feel acknowledged, they feel that they matter. In the mirror of your stillness, they are able to hear themselves more clearly. The tangled knots of their own thoughts begin to loosen, simply because they are being allowed to exist, without resistance, in the warmth of your compassionate awareness. You become a catalyst for their own insight. This is a quiet form of service, a humble offering that has the power to heal deep wounds of loneliness and invisibility. You do not need to have the right answers. You only need to have a quiet heart and a willingness to be present. This sacred practice of listening is not confined to our interactions with other people. It is a way of communing with all of life. We can begin by learning to listen to our own bodies. The body has a deep, innate wisdom, and it is constantly speaking to you. It speaks not in words, but in the language of sensation. It whispers in the subtle knot of tension in your shoulders, the quiet ache in your lower back, the flutter of anxiety in your stomach, the feeling of vibrant energy after a good meal. For most of our lives, we ignore these whispers. We live entirely in our heads, treating the body as a mere vehicle to carry our minds around. We wait until the body is forced to scream at us, in the form of illness, injury, or burnout, before we finally pay attention. To listen to your body is to inhabit it fully. It is to close your eyes and scan your inner landscape with the same gentle, curious attention you would offer to another person. What is your body trying to tell you right now? It knows what it needs to heal and to thrive. Your only task is to listen. We can then extend this listening awareness to the world of nature. Step outside, not merely to get somewhere, but with the sole intention of listening. Find a place to sit quietly. Close your eyes for a moment and just receive the sounds. Hear the complex symphony of the wind moving through the leaves, the distant call of a bird, the hum of an insect, the intricate tapestry of life's soundscape. Hear the silence that holds all of these sounds. In this practice, you begin to dissolve the boundary between yourself and the natural world. You are no longer an observer looking at nature. You are a part of nature, listening to itself. It is a profound meditation that reconnects you to the web of life from which the ego has convinced you that you are separate. And finally, we must learn to listen to the silence itself. This is the deepest listening of all. In our noisy world, we are often afraid of silence. We fill it with music, with podcasts, with chatter, with anything to avoid the perceived emptiness. But the stillness we have been cultivating is not empty. It is full. It is the plenum, not the void. To listen to the silence is to turn your attention toward the very fabric of consciousness. It is to feel the stillness that exists beneath all sound, the sky that holds all the clouds. The universe is always whispering its deepest secrets, but it does so in the language of silence. When you can sit and be comfortable in utter quiet, listening to nothing at all, you are communing with the source. You are listening to the heartbeat of your own being. This is why listening is a form of prayer. A prayer, in its purest form, is an act of communion, a turning of attention toward the sacred. When you listen deeply to another human being, you are honoring the sacred spark of consciousness within them. You are treating their soul as holy ground. You are setting aside your ego as an offering, and in doing so, you are praying to the divine that exists in both of you. When you listen to your body, you are offering a prayer of reverence to the miracle of life that animates you. When you listen to nature and to silence, you are offering a prayer of awe and gratitude to the vast, intelligent mystery of existence itself. You are recognizing that God, or the universe, or the ultimate reality, is not a being who speaks in thunder from on high, but a presence that whispers in the stillness between your thoughts, in the feeling of your own aliveness, and in the space you create for another. We have discovered something extraordinary. We have taken a simple, mundane, everyday activity, an activity we thought we knew how to do, and by infusing it with presence, with humility, with love, we have transformed it into a sacred act. Listening has become a prayer. This revelation opens a magnificent door. If listening can be a form of worship, what about the other mundane acts of our lives? What about walking, breathing, working, eating? What if the potential for sacredness is not confined to the meditation cushion or the house of worship, but is hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered in every simple, ordinary moment of our existence? What if our entire life is a temple and every action an offering? The humble, spacious quiet of the heart has revealed a profound secret, that the simple, everyday act of listening can be a form of prayer. This discovery is a key that turns a lock in the very foundation of our spiritual search. It opens a door from a small room of designated holy activities into the vast, open-air temple of life itself. We begin to suspect that the sacred is not hiding on a distant mountaintop or in a future state of enlightenment. We begin to wonder if it has been here all along, disguised as the ordinary, waiting patiently for us to see it. This is the path to finding the sacred in the mundane. Our greatest obstacle on this path is a deep-seated misconception about the nature of awakening. We have been taught to think of enlightenment as a destination, a spectacular event that will happen to us someday if we meditate enough, or read the right books, or have the right teacher. We imagine it as a sudden flash of light, a dramatic shattering of the ego that will permanently elevate us beyond the struggles of ordinary life. And so, we create a painful duality. There is our spiritual life, which consists of the time we spend on the meditation cushion or in moments of quiet reflection. And then there is our real life, the endless succession of mundane tasks, washing the dishes, driving to work, paying the bills, doing the laundry. We endure our real life, seeing it as a series of obstacles or chores to be completed as quickly as possible so that we can get back to our spiritual life. We treat our ordinary existence as a waiting room for an enlightenment that is always in the future. This is the great spiritual error. Awakening is not an escape from the mundane. It is a total, radical, and loving immersion in it. It is not about changing your circumstances, but about changing your consciousness within those circumstances. The sacred is not a quality inherent in certain special objects or activities. It is a quality of attention that you can bring to any object or activity. The alchemical agent that transforms the lead of the mundane into the gold of the sacred is one thing, and one thing only: your full, undivided, non-judgmental presence. It is the act of being totally here, now, with whatever is happening, without wishing it were different. When you bring this quality of pristine attention to any task, that task ceases to be a means to an end. It becomes a complete world unto itself. The doing becomes a form of being. The journey becomes the destination. Let us explore this in the most ordinary of tasks, washing a bowl. For most of us, this is a mindless chore. We stand at the sink, our hands in the water, but our minds are 1,000 miles away. We are thinking about the argument we had this morning, worrying about the meeting we have tomorrow, or simply lost in a daydream. Our goal is to get the task over with as quickly as possible so we can move on to something more important. The bowl is an obstacle. Now, imagine approaching this same task as a spiritual practice. You stand at the sink and you decide just for these few minutes to be fully present. You feel the solidity of the bowl in your hands. You feel the remarkable sensation of the warm water on your skin. You notice the rainbow colors shimmering in a single soap bubble. You hear the gentle sound of the water running. You are not thinking about the past or the future. You are not rushing to finish. You are simply, completely washing this one bowl. In the words of the great Zen master, Thich Nhat Hanh, you are washing the dishes to wash the dishes, not to get clean dishes. The purpose is found entirely within the act itself. In that moment of total presence, the ordinary bowl becomes as sacred as a holy chalice. The act of cleansing it becomes a ritual of purification for your own mind. You are not just washing a dish, you are washing your own awareness, cleansing it of the residue of distraction and returning it to the pristine clarity of the present moment. This is not a chore, it is a meditation. Let us take this practice out the door, into the act of walking. Usually, walking is a purely utilitarian function. We walk to get from point A to point B. Our bodies are on autopilot, while our minds are lost in the usual labyrinth of thought. We hardly notice the ground beneath our feet or the world we are moving through. But walking, too, can become a pilgrimage. It does not matter if you are walking in a beautiful forest or on a cracked city sidewalk. The practice is the same. With each step, you bring your attention to the physical sensation of your foot making contact with the earth. Feel the heel strike, the weight roll through the sole, the toes pushing off. Feel the subtle miracle of balance and movement. This simple act of attention anchors you fiercely in the present moment. Your endless mental chatter begins to quiet down because your attention is occupied with the rich sensory reality of walking. You feel the air on your skin. You see the light and shadows around you, as if for the first time. You are no longer rushing to a destination. Every single step becomes an arrival. You are on a pilgrimage from this moment to this moment. Each footstep on the earth is a silent prayer, an affirmation of your connection to this planet, to this body, to this life, right here, right now. Now, let us turn to the most intimate and constant of all mundane realities, the breath. The breath is so fundamental to our existence that we ignore it almost completely. It happens on its own, a silent, autonomic rhythm that we take for granted until we are out of breath. But the breath is the ultimate anchor to the sacred now. It is a spiritual practice that is available to you in every single moment, no matter where you are or what you are doing. You do not need to sit on a cushion or close your eyes. You can simply turn your awareness to the feeling of the breath entering and leaving your body. Feel the cool air enter your nostrils. Feel the expansion of your chest and belly. Then feel the gentle release, the letting go of the exhale. The breath is a perfect teacher. Each inhale is an act of receiving the gift of life from the universe. Each exhale is an act of letting go, of surrendering back to the universe. It is a constant, silent mantra, the most fundamental rhythm of existence. By simply paying attention to it, you are aligning yourself with the pulse of life itself. You are coming home to the temple of your own body, a sanctuary of peace that is always available, just one conscious breath away. Washing a bowl, walking, breathing. The principle is the same for all of them, and it can be extended to every corner of your life. You can drink a cup of tea with the same presence, feeling its warmth, smelling its aroma, tasting it fully, transforming it into a ceremony of peace. You can listen to music, not as a background noise, but as a total sensory immersion allowing the vibrations to wash through you. You can perform your work, whatever it may be, with a focused, wholehearted attention that turns labor into a craft and effort into an offering. You can even be stuck in traffic, and instead of succumbing to frustration, you can use that time to practice listening to the sounds around you, to feel the breath in your body, to simply be present in the stillness of the waiting. When you begin to live this way, life is no longer chopped up into a series of good spiritual moments and bad mundane moments. The division collapses. The temple is everywhere. The altar is whatever is in front of you. Every single moment, no matter how ordinary it appears to the ego, becomes a golden opportunity. It is an opportunity to be present, to be aware, to be grateful. It is an opportunity to worship. And as you become more and more present in your actions, a new layer of awareness begins to dawn. You start to notice not just what you are doing, but the quality of energy with which you are doing it. You notice the subtle but profound difference between an action performed with a rushed, resentful intention and the same action performed with a patient, loving intention. You begin to see, directly and immediately, how your inner state creates your outer experience. You see cause and effect, not as a grand cosmic law of reward and punishment, but as an intimate moment-to-moment feedback loop within your own consciousness. This direct, personal observation of the law of cause and effect is the true, living teaching of karma. It is no longer a belief, it is your direct experience, and that is where our journey must take us next. By immersing ourselves in the stream of ordinary life, we have made a remarkable discovery. We have seen that by bringing our full presence to any task, the mundane becomes sacred. In this state of heightened awareness, another truth begins to dawn, not as a concept, but as a direct, felt experience. We begin to notice the undeniable link between the quality of our inner state and the quality of our outer experience. We see, in real time, how an action performed with a calm heart yields a peaceful result, and how an action driven by frantic, anxious energy creates a chaotic one. This intimate, moment-to-moment observation of cause and effect is the gateway to a true, living understanding of karma. For many of us, the word karma is heavy with baggage. It has been presented as a vast, cosmic system of crime and punishment, a sort of divine bookkeeping managed by an invisible accountant in the sky. In this view, our good deeds are deposits and our bad deeds are withdrawals. And at some point in the distant future, or perhaps in another lifetime, we will be rewarded or punished accordingly. This understanding, while often well-intentioned, is born of the ego and creates a subtle state of fear. It turns morality into a transaction. It makes us anxious about a future judgment and can lead to a spiritual pride in our accumulation of good karma. It is a model based on an external authority, a celestial judge who is keeping score. But the universe is not a courtroom, and karma is not its judge. To truly understand karma, we must discard this fear-based model and embrace a new metaphor. Karma is a mirror. It is a perfect, flawless, and utterly impartial mirror. A mirror has no opinion. It does not punish the face for being angry. It does not reward the face for smiling. It does not judge the face in any way. It simply, with perfect and unfailing accuracy, reflects back whatever is placed before it. Now, imagine that your state of consciousness is the face you are presenting to the mirror of the universe. The reflection you see is your experience of life. If you stand before the mirror with a consciousness of anger, resentment, and scarcity, the mirror of life will faithfully reflect back to you a world filled with conflict, injustice, and lack. If you stand before the mirror with a consciousness of peace, generosity, and love, the world will, in turn, reflect back to you experiences of harmony, connection, and abundance. The profound implication of this is that if you do not like the reflection you are seeing, it is utterly futile to argue with the mirror. It is useless to try and polish the mirror, to bargain with it, or to rail against its injustice. The mirror is just doing its job perfectly. The only way to change the reflection is to change the face you are making. The work is never out there. It is never about changing the world or manipulating other people. The work is always in here. It is about the radical and empowered act of taking responsibility for your own state of consciousness. This is the true teaching of karma. It is not a system of punishment. It is a system of perfect, loving, and immediate feedback. It is the universe constantly showing you the contents of your own heart. A crucial aspect of this understanding is the role of intention. The mirror of karma reflects not just your outer actions, but the inner energy from which those actions arise. Two people can perform the exact same deed, but the karmic consequence, the quality of the reflection, will be entirely different based on their inner state. Imagine one person giving a large sum of money to a homeless person out of a genuine, heartfelt upwelling of compassion. The intention is pure connection and a desire to alleviate suffering. The immediate karmic result for that person is an expansion of the heart, a feeling of love and connection to all of life. Now, imagine another person giving the same amount of money to the same homeless person, but their intention is to be seen by others, to post about their good deed on social media, to feel superior and self-righteous. The outer action is identical, but the inner state is one of egoic gain. The immediate karmic result for them is not a feeling of love, but a fleeting inflation of the ego, which is always followed by a subtle, hollow emptiness. The universe is not fooled by our performance. It responds to the vibration of our intention. Furthermore, karma is instantaneous. While certain outer consequences of our actions may take time to ripen, the most significant karmic effect happens in the very moment of the action. The karma is the action. When you generate a thought of intense anger or jealousy, you do not have to wait for a future punishment. You are punished in that very instant by the painful, poisonous feeling of anger or jealousy coursing through your own body and mind. You are the first and primary victim of your own negativity. Conversely, when you generate a genuine feeling of love or gratitude, you do not have to wait for a future reward. You are rewarded in that very moment by the blissful, expansive feeling of love or gratitude uplifting your entire being. You are the first and primary beneficiary of your own positivity. The universe is not a system of deferred payment. It is a system of immediate experience. When we see karma in this light, it ceases to be a source of fear and becomes our greatest teacher. It is the most honest and compassionate guide we could ever ask for. Life becomes a living feedback loop. If your life is consistently filled with strife, frustration, and people who treat you poorly, karma is not punishing you. It is gently and impartially holding up the mirror and saying, "Notice the energy you are transmitting. Notice the unconscious beliefs you are holding. Notice the face you are making." This reflection is the result of that cause. Are you ready to choose differently? It invites us to move from blame to responsibility, from victimhood to empowerment. It is not about blaming yourself in a self-critical way, but about recognizing your power as the creator of your own experiential reality. If your inner state is the cause, then you, and only you, have the power to change it. With this profound and liberating understanding, we become exquisitely mindful of what we are constantly putting out into the world. We realize that every thought, every mood, every intention is a cause that will have an effect. It is a seed we are planting in the garden of our own consciousness, and we will surely eat the fruit of that seed. And what are the most frequent and powerful seeds we sow? What is the primary way we transmit our inner state into the outer world? It is through our words. Words are not just sounds, they are carriers of energy. They are thoughts made manifest, given wings to fly out and touch another being. They are potent acts of creation or destruction. Understanding karma as an immediate, intimate teacher naturally leads us to a deep and reverent appreciation for the nature of our speech. We begin to understand the immense, world-shaping power of a single, gentle word. Having awakened to the living reality of karma as a cosmic system of punishment, but as a perfect, impartial mirror of our own consciousness, we arrive at a place of profound responsibility and creative power. We see that every thought, every intention, is a cause that creates an effect, a seed that will bear fruit in our experience. Now, we must turn our attention to the primary vehicle through which these inner causes are launched into the world. We must examine the most potent and prolific magic we possess, the power of our words. For most of our lives, we treat words as cheap commodities. We spend them recklessly. We spill them carelessly. We use them to fill empty spaces, often without any conscious awareness of their true nature. But words are not just sounds. They are not merely labels for things. Words are containers of energy. They are vessels freighted with the intention, the emotion, and the vibrational state of the one who speaks them. The same collection of syllables can be a weapon that wounds or a medicine that heals, depending entirely on the consciousness from which it is born. The true communication is not the word itself, but the energy the word carries. Imagine that the collective consciousness of humanity is a great, still pond of water. Every single word you speak is a pebble tossed into this pond. A word spoken from a place of anger, judgment, or fear is a sharp, jagged stone. It hits the water with a harsh splash, and it sends out jarring, discordant ripples that spread far and wide, disturbing the peace of the entire pond. A word spoken from a place of love, encouragement, or peace is a smooth, round stone. It enters the water gently, and its ripples are harmonious and soothing, a calming influence that spreads outwards, blessing everything it touches. With every sentence you utter, you are either contributing to the discord or to the harmony of the whole. You are the one choosing the stone. You are the one creating the ripples. This is a sacred, unavoidable responsibility. Let us look at the destructive power of unconscious speech, the jagged stones we so often throw. Consider the act of gossip. When we engage in gossip, we form a temporary, fragile bond with another person based on a shared, negative judgment of a third who is not present. It feels unifying for a moment, but it is a union forged in low vibrational energy. It is an act that poisons three people at once. It poisons the person being spoken of by sending waves of negative energy towards them. It poisons the person you are speaking to by inviting them into a state of judgment. And most intimately, it poisons you, the speaker. It reinforces the ego's sense of superiority and separation, and it fills your own being with the very negativity you are projecting. Similarly, consider the act of complaint. To complain is to repeatedly speak of what is wrong, what is lacking, what is unjust. It is a verbal ritual that reinforces a victim identity. It is an affirmation of powerlessness. When you complain, you are using your divine power of speech to paint a world of lack and frustration, and then wondering why that is the world you inhabit. The most overt form of verbal violence is the harsh words spoken in anger, the sharp criticism, the belittling remark. These words are launched like arrows, and they may seem to find their mark in another person, but their first and most lasting impact is on the archer. To generate the force necessary to speak a cruel word, you must first create the poison of that cruelty within your own system. You must constrict your own heart. You must dip into the bitter well of your own pain. You must become the very anger you wish to express. The other person may feel the sting of your arrow, but you are the one who has willingly filled your own veins with its venom. The karmic effect is instantaneous, but if a word can be a weapon, it can also be the most powerful of healing salves. This is the creative power of a gentle word. This is the conscious use of speech as a form of love, a form of blessing. Think of a time when you were filled with doubt or despair, and someone offered you a single, sincere word of encouragement. A simple, "You can do this," or "I believe in you." In that moment, their words were like water to a wilted plant. They did not solve your problem, but they gave you the strength to face it. They reconnected you to your own power. To offer a word of genuine encouragement to another is a profound act of service. It is to plant a seed of strength and resilience in the garden of their mind. Consider the simple act of expressing gratitude. So often, we feel gratitude in our hearts, but the words remain unspoken. To give voice to your gratitude is to amplify its power tenfold. To say to a friend, "I am so grateful for your presence in my life," not only blesses them, but also deepens your own experience of that gratitude. It takes an inner feeling and makes it a manifest reality in the shared world, creating ripples of love and appreciation that uplift you both. The spoken word of thanks is a sacred offering, a recognition of the grace that flows through our lives. Even the most difficult truths can be delivered with a gentle tongue. So often we believe we must choose between being honest and being kind, but this is a false choice. The highest form of communication is to speak your truth with a foundation of love. It is the practice of using I statements rather than you statements. Instead of the accusatory, "You always ignore me," which is a jagged stone, one can offer the vulnerable and honest, "I feel lonely and unseen when we don't connect." The first invites a defensive battle. The second invites an empathetic understanding. The first is about being right. The second is about seeking connection. This is the art of speaking from the heart, not from the armored ego. This is how our speech becomes a mindful practice, a form of meditation in action. Before you speak, you can learn to create a sacred pause, a momentary space of silence. In that space, you can ask yourself a few simple questions. Is what I am about to say true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Will this word build up or tear down? Am I speaking to genuinely help? Or am I speaking to prove a point? To vent my own frustration? Or simply to hear the sound of my own voice? This simple practice of pausing before you speak can revolutionize your relationships and transform your inner world. You begin to see your words as precious, as powerful tools to be used with the skill and reverence of a master artisan. You are no longer a careless wielder of words, but a conscious creator. With this understanding, we realize the immense creative force we wield every day. We are sculpting our relationships, our inner states, and our experience of the world with the chisel of our tongue. This is not a burden, but a call to conscious artistry. It is an invitation to use our words to build sanctuaries of safety for others, to plant gardens of encouragement, and to weave webs of connection. It is the recognition that every word matters. And as we become more and more attuned to the profound impact of every word we speak, a natural and beautiful consequence begins to unfold. We begin to speak less. We lose the nervous compulsion to fill every silence with chatter. We realize that the space between words can be just as meaningful as the words themselves. We begin to appreciate that sometimes the most powerful, the most healing, and the most loving communication is not a word at all. It is the rich, pregnant, and deeply communicative power of silence. We become curious about the word that is intentionally left unspoken, and the profound eloquence of a quiet, loving presence. Having discovered the sacred, creative power latent in our words, we become more mindful, more intentional in our speech. We begin to treat our words as the precious and potent things they are. A natural and beautiful consequence of this new reverence is that we begin to speak less. The nervous compulsion to fill every pause, every gap in conversation starts to fade away. We are no longer afraid of the space between sounds. We see that this space is not a void to be feared, but a presence to be honored. We begin to understand that communication is a dance between sound and its equally powerful partner, silence. This is the discovery of the eloquence of silence. In our modern world, we have been conditioned to be deeply uncomfortable with silence. Silence in a conversation is labeled awkward. Silence in our environment is immediately filled with music, podcasts, or television. We live in a state of perpetual noise, both external and internal. This fear of silence is the ego's fear of itself. The ego, the constructed self, is made of thought and story. In true silence, When the stream of thinking subsides, the ego has nothing to cling to. It feels a sense of its own dissolution, its own death. And so, it panics. It scrambles to generate more thought, more noise, more distraction to reaffirm its own existence. But the silence that the ego fears is the very gateway to our true nature. We must learn to distinguish between the tense, awkward silence of disconnection and the warm, expansive silence of true presence. To understand the power of eloquent silence, think of a piece of music. A beautiful symphony is not merely a succession of notes. It is a masterful interplay of sound and stillness. The rests, the pauses, the spaces between the notes are what give the music its rhythm, its emotion, its power to move the soul. Without the silence, the most beautiful melody would become an unbearable, meaningless wall of noise. The silence is not the absence of music, it is an integral part of the music. So it is with our lives and our communication. Eloquent silence provides the depth, the meaning, and the rhythm. It is the canvas upon which the words are painted. A conversation filled only with words, with no space for reflection or feeling, is like a painting with no background, a chaotic and overwhelming collage of color. This power is most keenly felt in our relationships with others. We have been taught to believe that to be supportive or to show love, we must always find the right words. When a friend is in the depths of grief or despair, we scramble to offer advice, platitudes, or stories of our own, hoping to fix their pain or cheer them up. But often, the person who is suffering does not need your words. They do not need your solutions. They need your presence. The most profound gift you can offer is to simply sit with them in their pain, without flinching, without trying to change it. Your quiet, unwavering, silent presence is a powerful message. It says, "I am here with you. I am not afraid of your darkness. You are not alone." Your silence creates a sacred, safe space where their grief is allowed to be, without judgment. In that shared stillness, a communion happens that is deeper than any language. The heart speaks to the heart in the eloquent silence between your souls. Of course, not all silence is created equal. We must distinguish the warm, inviting silence of presence from the cold, rejecting silence of anger. Angry silence is a passive-aggressive weapon. It is a wall, a punishment, a deliberate withholding of connection. It is loud with unspoken resentment and judgment. It is a jagged stone, held but not thrown. Eloquent silence, however, is an open door. It is warm, accepting, and full of loving awareness. It is a presence that embraces rather than rejects. One is the silence of war, the other is the silence of peace. We know the difference not by the absence of sound, but by the presence of the energy we feel. One feels constricting and cold, the other feels expansive and warm. This practice of silence is the primary method for accessing the deeper wisdom of your own being. The thinking mind, the ego, communicates in the frantic, noisy language of words. But your soul, your true self, the vast awareness of the sky, speaks in a different tongue. It speaks in the language of stillness, of intuition, of quiet knowing. To hear this still, small voice within, you must be willing to quiet the outer clamor of the mind. This is the true purpose of meditation. It is not about stopping your thoughts, which is impossible. It is about learning to rest in the silent awareness behind your thoughts. It is about becoming intimate and comfortable with your own inner silence, realizing that it is not an emptiness to be feared, but a fullness to be explored. It is in this inner silence that true insight is born, that creativity arises, that you can finally hear the subtle guidance of your own deepest truth. This same life-filled silence is reflected everywhere in the natural world. Go to a deep forest or a vast desert. The overwhelming feeling is one of profound, ancient silence. Yet this silence is not dead. It is teeming with unseen life. It is the silence of trees growing, of the earth breathing, of the cosmos turning. By being silent in nature, you attune your own being to this primordial frequency. You remember that you are a part of this vast, silent, intelligent whole. The silence of nature washes away the frantic noise of the human ego and returns you to a state of peace and perspective. We have now seen the power of the spoken word and the equal, if different, power of intentional silence. What does this reveal? It shows us that the ultimate communication is not happening on the level of language at all. Both a gentle word and an eloquent silence can be vessels for the same energy, the energy of love, of presence, of compassion. Likewise, both a harsh word and an angry silence can be vessels for the energy of fear and separation. The words and the silence are just the containers. The content is the energetic frequency of your being. It becomes clear that what we are truly broadcasting into the world, and what the world is truly reflecting back to us, is not our verbal articulation. It is the vibration of our consciousness. This leads to a fundamental question. If this is how we communicate with each other on the deepest level, is it not also how we communicate with the universe itself? Does the universe listen to the words of our prayers, or does it listen to the frequency of our hearts? We have arrived at a pivotal understanding. By exploring the power of our words and the equal power of our silence, we have discovered that both are merely vessels. The true message, the real communication, is the energy that underlies them. A gentle word and a loving silence can carry the same frequency of peace. A harsh word and an angry silence can carry the same frequency of conflict. Having seen this truth in our relationships with one another, we must now apply it to the ultimate relationship, our relationship with life, with the universe itself. We must ask a fundamental question. When we pray, when we hope, when we yearn, what is the universe actually listening to? The traditional model of prayer is one of petition. We, as separate subjects, address an external deity-like universe, and with our words, we ask for things. We ask for health, for wealth, for love, for guidance. We craft our sentences carefully. We speak with fervor. We plead our case. When our request is granted, we feel heard. When it is not, we feel ignored, punished, or that we have somehow prayed incorrectly. This model, rooted in the duality of a needy self and a distant, all-powerful other, often leads to a relationship with the divine that is based on transactional hope and frequent disappointment. But what if the universe does not speak English or any other human language? What if it does not operate on the logic of verbal requests at all? Let us propose a new model, one that aligns with all we have discovered so far. The universe is not a being that listens. It is an energetic field that responds. It is a vast ocean of consciousness, vibrating at every conceivable frequency. And the primary law of this energetic universe is the law of resonance. Like attracts like. A plucked guitar string will cause a nearby string tuned to the same note to vibrate in sympathy. This is not magic. It is physics. Your being, your moment-to-moment state of consciousness, is that guitar string, constantly emitting a frequency out into the great concert hall of existence. The universe, in turn, does not judge your song. It simply and unfailingly provides you with more experiences, people, and circumstances that resonate with the note you are holding. To make this clearer, imagine the universe as an infinite radio broadcast. Every possible reality is being broadcast simultaneously on its own unique frequency. There is a frequency for joyful abundance. There is a frequency for bitter lack. There is a frequency for deep, abiding peace, and a frequency for frantic, anxious conflict. There is a frequency for love and connection, and a frequency for loneliness and separation. The broadcast is always on. All stations are always available. Your predominant emotional state, the feeling that runs like a current beneath your thoughts, is your radio tuner. It is set to a specific frequency, and you can only experience the broadcast that matches the frequency you are tuned to. This is why so many of our prayers seem to go unanswered. We stand with our tuner firmly set to the frequency of lack, feeling it in our bodies, thinking thoughts of scarcity, worrying about our bill sand with our words. We shout at the radio, "Please, play the song of abundance." The radio cannot. It is a physical impossibility. You cannot hear the symphony if you are tuned to the static. The prayer, then, is not the words you shout. The true prayer is the frequency you hold. The art of prayer is the art of mindfully, deliberately, and patiently retuning your own receiver. You must become the frequency of the reality you wish to experience. This is one of the most profound and challenging reversals in all of spiritual understanding. We believe that we will feel the feeling once we get the thing. I will feel peaceful once my problems are solved. I will feel loved once I find a partner. I will feel abundant once the money arrives. The law of resonance shows us that this is backward. You must feel the peace before the problems can be solved in a peaceful way. You must embody a state of love and wholeness before you can attract a loving and whole partner. You must tune yourself to the frequency of abundance and gratitude for what you have before more can flow to you. The feeling is not the result. The feeling is the cause. Your feeling, state, is your prayer. And the universe always, without exception, answers the prayer of your feeling, not the prayer of your words. Here we see the source of immense internal conflict. We try to use positive affirmations, saying, "I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am loved." But underneath these words, our entire being is vibrating with the frequency of fear, sickness, and loneliness. The universe does not hear the pretty words you are chanting. It feels the raw, dominant vibration of your fear. The affirmation becomes a painful reminder of the gap between what you want and what you feel you are. To truly change your life, you must change your frequency. And how do you do that? You do it by practicing everything we have been exploring. You do it by letting go of the grievances that vibrate at the frequency of anger. You do it by forgiving yourself, releasing the dense frequency of guilt. You do it by cultivating a gentle heart, which vibrates at the frequency of love. You do it by practicing gratitude, which is one of the highest and most magnetic frequencies you can embody. You do it by finding the sacred in the mundane, which tunes you to the frequency of awe and presence. This is not a magical trick. It is not about thinking positive while ignoring your true feelings. It is the deep, authentic, and sometimes difficult work of inner transformation. It is about taking your attention off the reflection in the mirror, the outer circumstances of your life, and placing it squarely on the source, your own state of being. You begin to treat your own inner peace as the most important goal. You realize that feeling good, feeling peaceful, feeling love is not a luxury to be enjoyed after your work is done. It is the work itself. It is the most important work you will ever do. Your inner state is your offering to the universe, and the universe will give you more of whatever you offer. This new understanding requires a profound shift in how we approach our lives. It means that when we are faced with a challenge, our first question is not, "What should I do?" but rather, "What state of being should I embody?" But as we begin this practice of consciously cultivating our inner state, we immediately come face to face with a formidable adversary, our own impatience. We change our frequency for a day, or even a week, and when our outer world does not immediately transform, we become discouraged. We fall back into old habits of worry and fear. We want the new reality, and we want it now. We do not trust the process. We do not trust that the seeds we are planting will grow in their own time. It becomes clear that to master the art of tuning our own frequency, we must first master another, deeply spiritual quality. We must learn to create a sacred space of trust and allowing. We must learn the profound power of patience. We have arrived at the understanding that our state of being is our prayer, that the universe listens not to our words but to the frequency of our heart. We have resolved to become conscious cultivators of our inner state, to tune our being to the vibrations of peace, love, and abundance that we wish to experience in our lives. And as we embark on this high and worthy work, we immediately collide with one of the most powerful and pervasive energies of the modern world, a force that can shatter our resolve and pull us back into the static of turmoil. This force is impatience, and to continue our journey, we must transform our relationship with it, learning to see patience not as passive waiting, but as a vibrant and sacred space. Impatience is a form of suffering. Let us be very clear about that. It is not a trivial annoyance. It is a state of active resistance to the present moment. It is the ego's violent rejection of what is in favor of what it wants. When you are impatient, you are at war with time. You are standing in the now, but your entire being is straining towards a future that has not yet arrived. This creates a painful inner schism, a tearing of your consciousness between where you are and where you want to be. Feel the energy of impatience in your body. It is a frantic, constricted, and stressful vibration. It is the energy of struggle. It is the frequency of lack, because it loudly proclaims, "What I have right now is not enough. The present moment is flawed, and I refuse to accept it." When you are in a state of impatience, you are, by the very law of resonance we have just explored, praying for more struggle, more resistance, and more reasons to be frustrated. It is the antithesis of the peaceful, allowing state we are seeking to cultivate. We must also be careful not to confuse true patience with its common counterfeits. Patience is not passive resignation, a state of listless, defeated waiting where you have simply given up hope. Nor is it suppressed frustration, where you are outwardly calm but inwardly seething, a volcano of irritation waiting to erupt. These are states of powerlessness. True, sacred patience is the opposite. It is a state of immense, quiet power. It is an active and vibrant trust in the unfolding of life. It is a deep, embodied knowing that there is a larger intelligence at work, a natural and perfect timing to all things, which the limited, anxious ego cannot possibly comprehend. The greatest metaphor for this sacred patience is that of the wise farmer. The farmer knows he cannot control the harvest, but he can create the optimal conditions for it. He begins by diligently preparing the soil, removing the rocks and weeds. This is our inner work, letting go of old grievances, forgiving ourselves, clearing the ground of our consciousness. Then, he selects the best possible seed and plants it with care. This is our act of setting a clear intention, of tuning our frequency to the reality we wish to create. He waters the seed and protects the young sprout. This is our daily practice of returning to our desired state of being, of nurturing our intention with feelings of gratitude and trust. And then, the farmer's greatest work begins. He must wait. He must trust. He knows that he cannot dig up the seed every morning to check on its progress, for this would destroy it. He knows he cannot pull on the delicate green shoot to make it grow faster, for this would kill it. He must surrender to a process that is larger than himself. He must trust in the unseen, magical forces of life, the power of the sun, the nourishment of the earth, the blessing of the rain. He does his part, and then he allows the universe to do its part. This state of active trust, of calm and faithful waiting, is sacred patience. It is a high and harmonious frequency, a prayer of deep faith that aligns you with the creative rhythms of life itself. This practice of patience unfolds in three great arenas. The first is patience with life itself, with the universe. We plant the seed of our intention, a desire for a loving partner, for meaningful work, for healing, and we want the harvest tomorrow. We perform our inner work for a few weeks and then look around, demanding to see the results. But the universe does not operate on the ego's frantic timeline. A mighty oak tree does not spring from an acorn overnight. There is a necessary and sacred gestation period for all things. Patience is the willingness to honor this gestation period. It is the faith that just because you cannot see the growth beneath the soil does not mean the seed is not sprouting. It is the wisdom to know that life may have a far more beautiful and intricate plan for you than your ego could ever devise. Perhaps the delay is teaching you something you need to learn. Perhaps it is protecting you from something you are not yet ready for. Patience is the act of relinquishing your rigid timeline and surrendering to the perfect timing of a wiser intelligence. It is finding peace in the not yet, trusting that what is truly meant for you will arrive at the exact right moment. The second arena is patience with others. Our impatience with other people is a form of violence. It is the ego's demand that they operate according to our personal rhythm and our set of expectations. When we are impatient with a child who is learning a new skill, or a colleague who is working more slowly than we are, or a partner who is not processing their emotions as quickly as we would like, we are being deeply unkind. We are denying them the grace of their own unique process. We are essentially saying, "Your way of being is wrong, and you must conform to my way." True patience with another person is a profound offering of love. It is the creation of a sacred space where they have the permission to be exactly who they are in their own time. It is holding a space of calm acceptance while they learn, while they grieve, while they struggle. It is the ultimate expression of the compassion we have explored, a recognition that their journey has its own sacred rhythm, which we have no right to interfere with. The third, and often most challenging arena, is patience with ourselves. We are so often our own cruelest taskmasters. We are impatient with our own healing. We are impatient with our spiritual progress. We are impatient with the fact that we still get angry, or feel fear, or fall back into old patterns. We beat ourselves up for not being perfect, for not being enlightened yet. This inner impatience is a form of continuous self-aggression. It is the voice of the inner critic, tapping its foot, checking its watch, and telling us we are failing. Sacred patience with yourself is the application of the farmer's wisdom to your own soul. You must treat your own growth as you would a delicate, precious plant. You offer yourself the kindness of knowing that you are a work in progress. You celebrate the small shifts, the moments of clarity, the times you chose a gentle response over a reactive one. You trust that you are unfolding in perfect time. When you stumble, you do not rip the plant out by its roots. You gently help it stand upright again. You give it some water, and you continue to offer it the sunlight of your loving attention. Self-patience is the ultimate act of self-compassion. This sacred quality can be cultivated as a daily practice. The moment you feel the frantic, constricted energy of impatience arise, your first action is to turn to the breath. Your breath is never in a hurry. It maintains its slow, steady, graceful rhythm, day in and day out. Align your awareness with this rhythm. Feel its calming influence. Notice the physical sensations of impatience in your body. The clenched jaw, the tight shoulders, the rapid heartbeat, and consciously breathe into those areas, inviting them to soften and release. Use the small annoyances of daily life as your training ground. The long line at the grocery store, the slow driver in front of you, the website that will not load, these are not obstacles to your peace. They are opportunities to practice it. See them as your personal gym for patience. Instead of fuming, you can choose to breathe and to simply be present. Observe the unhurried rhythms of nature. A cloud drifting across the sky, a snail making its way across the path. Nature is the supreme teacher of patience. It never rushes, yet everything is accomplished. Ultimately, patience is the key that unlocks the riches of the present moment. Impatience, by its very nature, is a violent rejection of the now. It is a desperate lunge for the future. True patience is the opposite. It is a full, loving, and unconditional acceptance of the present moment, exactly as it is. It is the cessation of striving. It is the sweet relief of finally arriving where you already are. And when you fully land in the present moment, when you stop demanding that it be different, you finally have the quiet space to look around and notice what is already here. You notice the simple miracle of your own breath, the feeling of the chair supporting you, the light in the room. And when you truly see what is already present, what is already given, the natural and spontaneous emotion that blossoms in the patient heart is one of overwhelming gratitude. The sacred space of patience has delivered us to the doorstep of the present moment. By ceasing our frantic struggle against the river of time, we have finally arrived where we have always been, here, now. The anxious straining for a different future has subsided, and in its place, a quiet attention arises. And when we look upon the present moment with this quiet, patient attention, we become available to a force that has the power to instantly transform our entire experience of reality. This force is the current of gratitude. It is the realization of the true nature of wealth, and it is the fastest and most direct path to a life of abundance and peace. For most of our lives, we exist in a state of subtle, pervasive poverty, regardless of our financial circumstances. This is the poverty of the ungrateful mind. The default setting of the ego is one of lack. It is a creature of perpetual hunger. Its primary function is to scan the environment for what is missing, what is wrong, what is not enough, what could be better. It is a master at finding the single, solitary cloud in an otherwise brilliant blue sky. This scarcity mindset is like trying to carry water in a leaky bucket. No matter how many blessings, how many moments of joy, how many gifts are poured into your life, the mind of lack immediately finds the holes. It focuses on the one thing that went wrong, the one person who was unkind, the one goal not yet achieved. The blessings leak out, forgotten and unappreciated, and the bucket remains perpetually empty, the ego perpetually thirsty for more. We spend our lives trying to pour more and more water into a bucket that cannot hold it, all the while wondering why we never feel full. Gratitude is the act of repairing the bucket. It is a radical shift in consciousness, a deliberate and courageous decision to withdraw your attention from the holes, from what is lacking, from what is absent, and to place it, with loving focus, on the water that is already there. It is not merely the polite, mechanical act of saying thank you. It is a state of being. It is a lens through which you choose to view your life. It is the conscious practice of noticing goodness, both great and small. And in the moment, you shift your perception to what is present and good, the feeling of lack dissolves. In that instant, you become wealthy. For true wealth is not a number in an account. It is the feeling of having enough. And gratitude delivers that feeling directly, immediately, and unconditionally. This shift is not just a psychological trick. It is a profound energetic realignment. As we have seen, the universe responds to the frequency of our being. The state of complaint, of focusing on lack, is a low, constricted vibration. It is a prayer for more things to complain about. Gratitude is one of the highest and most powerful frequencies you can embody. A state of genuine appreciation is a prayer of thank you, a signal to the universe that you are aware of the goodness that already surrounds you. And by the law of resonance, a being who is vibrating with the energy of appreciation will inevitably attract more and more experiences for which to be grateful. Gratitude is not just a response to a gift, it is the very force that magnetizes gifts to you. The practice of cultivating gratitude can be approached in layers, each one taking us deeper into a state of abundance. The first layer is gratitude for the obvious good. This is the starting point, the conscious acknowledgement of the clear and present blessings in your life. The love of a partner, the laughter of a child, the loyalty of a friend, the security of a roof over your head, the presence of food in your pantry, a moment of profound joy, a beautiful sunset, a song that moved your heart. We often take these larger blessings for granted, our minds becoming habituated to them. The practice is to bring them consciously to the forefront. This can be done through a daily gratitude list, but we must take it deeper than a mere intellectual exercise. For each item you list, take a moment to close your eyes. Do not just think about the blessing. Feel it. Re-embody the feeling of love, of security, of joy. Let the emotion of gratitude wash through your entire body. This is how you repair the leaky bucket, by consciously soaking in the felt experience of your own good fortune. The second, deeper layer is gratitude for the overlooked mundane. This is where we truly begin to rewire our brains from scarcity to abundance, for it is the practice of finding the miraculous in the ordinary. It is gratitude for the things we have become so accustomed to that they have become invisible. Begin with your own body. Can you feel a flicker of gratitude for your heart, which has been beating faithfully for you every second of every day of your life, without a single instruction? Can you feel gratitude for your lungs, which draw in the breath of life, and for your eyes, which transform light into a world of color and form? These are not small things. They are staggering miracles we inhabit every moment. Expand this to your environment. Can you feel a jolt of gratitude for the simple magic of clean water, available to you at the turn of a faucet? Can you appreciate the miracle of electricity, the light that fills your room at the flick of a switch? These are luxuries that were unavailable to kings and queens for most of human history. We are surrounded by an abundance of grace so profound that it has become our normal. To see this normal with fresh eyes is to realize you are already living in a palace of wonders. The third and most transformative layer is the advanced practice, gratitude for the challenges. This is the ultimate alchemy of the soul. It is the ability to look back at the most difficult, painful experiences of your life and find the gift hidden within them. This does not mean you are grateful for the pain itself. It means you are grateful for what the pain taught you. It is gratitude for the devastating heartbreak that cracked your heart open so that more love could enter. It is gratitude for the professional failure that forced you onto a new and more authentic path. It is gratitude for the person who betrayed you, for they taught you the invaluable lesson of discernment and the importance of self-love. It is gratitude for your periods of struggle, for they forged a strength and resilience within you that you would never have otherwise known. This practice is not about denying the suffering. It is about honoring the wisdom that was born from it. When you can genuinely say thank you for your deepest wounds because of the growth they initiated, you become spiritually invincible. You have transformed your personal history from a story of victimhood into an epic of empowerment. You realize that nothing was ever against you. Everything was for you. Everything was a lesson from a universe that was conspiring to help you awaken. Living in a state of gratitude is to be perpetually wealthy. The frantic, grasping energy of the ego begins to relax, because in the light of constant appreciation, it sees that it already has everything it needs. The feeling of being full replaces the feeling of being hungry. You are no longer looking to the world to fill you up, because you have discovered the overflowing fountain of abundance within your own perception. A grateful heart is a peaceful heart. It is a humble heart. It is a heart that is at rest. It is a heart that has come home. And from this state of profound inner fullness, a new kind of freedom is born. When your cup is truly overflowing with gratitude for your own life, for your own being, you cease to need anything from the outside world. The desperate hunger for approval, for recognition, for applause, for fame, simply vanishes. It is the needy, empty ego that craves these things to validate its existence. But the grateful heart is already valid. It is already whole. It needs no audience. It requires no praise. This inner sense of absolute abundance and security is the foundation for one of the most sublime spiritual freedoms. The freedom to act, to create, to love, and to serve without any need for credit or reward. It is the freedom found in the quiet, unapplauded dignity of anonymity. The heart that lives in gratitude has discovered the secret of true wealth. It is a state of inner fullness, a profound and unshakable sense of having enough, of being enough. This inner abundance, this feeling of being whole and complete from within, is the key that unlocks one of the heaviest doors of our spiritual prison: the desperate, lifelong hunger for recognition. When you are truly full, you cease to be hungry for the world's applause. This is the beginning of a radical and sublime liberation, the freedom that is found in anonymity. We live in a world that is pathologically obsessed with being seen. The ego, in its state of perceived lack, believes that it only truly exists when it is reflected back by the attention of others. It clamors for likes, for followers, for praise, for credit. It feels a deep existential anxiety at the thought of performing a good deed that no one knows about, or creating something beautiful that no one sees. It constantly asks, if my success is not witnessed and acknowledged, is it real? This relentless pursuit of validation turns our lives into a performance. We are constantly on stage, curating an image, managing a personal brand, and auditioning for the approval of an ever-shifting audience. This is not freedom. It is the most exhausting form of bondage. You are a slave to the opinions of others, and your authenticity is the price you pay for their fleeting attention. The freedom of anonymity is not about becoming a recluse or hiding from the world. It is an inner state of being. It is the liberation that comes when your sense of self-worth is no longer dependent on external validation. It is the ability to act from the deepest core of your being, without any consideration for who is watching or what credit you will receive. It is the ultimate detachment from the social fruits of your labor. Your reward is no longer the praise that may or may not come later. Your reward is the integrity and joy inherent in the act itself. You are no longer acting to build a resume for your ego. You are simply acting as an expression of your soul. To understand this state, imagine a great, magnificent tree. We stand in awe of its visible glory, its strong, majestic trunk, its vibrant green leaves shimmering in the sun, the beautiful flowers it produces, the delicious fruit it offers. The ego wants to be these visible parts. It wants to be the beautiful flower that everyone admires, the sweet fruit that everyone praises. But the silent, anonymous, and arguably most vital work of the tree is done in secret, in the darkness of the earth. The roots are the foundation of the tree's entire existence. They anchor it against the fiercest storms. They draw up the life-giving water and the essential nutrients from the soil. They work tirelessly, in complete humility and anonymity, seeking no credit, no applause, no recognition. They are the unseen servants of the visible glory. Without the silent, humble work of the roots, the beautiful flower would never bloom. To embrace the freedom of anonymity is to find a deep and abiding joy in being the root. It is to release the need to be the flower. It is to find fulfillment in the quiet, unseen work of supporting life, of providing nourishment, of anchoring the whole, without any concern for whether your contribution is ever acknowledged. This is a profound shift in consciousness. It is a move away from the ego's desperate need for the spotlight and into the soul's quiet confidence in its own intrinsic value. Your actions are no longer transactional, they are offerings. When you act from this space of anonymity, your intentions become incredibly pure. If you give a gift, you do so purely for the joy of giving, for the feeling of extending your abundance to another. The act is complete in the moment it is performed. You do not wait for a thank you to feel good about it. If you create a piece of art, you do so because the creative energy moving through you demands to be expressed. The joy is in the process of creation itself, not in the potential for future fame or critical acclaim. If you offer a kind word of support to a friend, you do it to ease their heart, not to be seen by them as a good friend. The action and its reward become one and the same. There is no longer a gap between what you do and what you hope to get from it. This is the meaning of integrity, a state of being whole, undivided. Your inner motive and your outer action are in perfect alignment. This is a quiet, internal freedom, but it has profound outward effects. You are free to choose the path that is most true to your soul, even if it is a quieter, less glamorous path than one the world might admire. You are free to speak your truth, not with aggression, but with clarity, because you are not trying to win a popularity contest. You are free to love without possessiveness, because you are not trying to get your sense of self-worth from another person. You are free to fail without it crushing you, because your identity was never invested in success in the first place. You move through the world with a new lightness, a new grace. The heavy armor of the me that needs to be constantly polished, defended, and promoted has been laid aside. You are simply a presence, moving, acting, and being from a place of inner fullness. This is the state of the truly wealthy heart. It is so full of its own inner abundance, so overflowing with the peace and gratitude it has cultivated, that it has no need to take anything from the world. It only seeks to give. The person who is free in their anonymity is not driven by duty or a sense of should. They are not serving others to earn spiritual points or to build a virtuous identity. Their actions are the spontaneous and joyful overflow of a full heart. Just as a spring cannot help but bubble forth with fresh water, the heart that is free from the ego cannot help but express itself in acts of love and support for the life that surrounds it. And this reveals the ultimate purpose of this freedom. The liberation from the need for recognition is not an end in itself. It is the purification of the channel. When the self is no longer the object of your actions, then your actions can become a pure vehicle for a larger intelligence, for love itself, to move through you and into the world. You have become the clean pane of glass. You have become the humble roots of the tree. Your individual life, freed from the prison of self-obsession, naturally and effortlessly becomes an instrument of service for the whole. And this selfless, joyful, anonymous giving of your energy is the highest and most authentic form of worship. The journey inward has led to a great unburdening. The heavy armor of the ego has been laid aside. The clenched fist of grievance has been opened. The need for the world's applause has faded into silence. And the heart, no longer starved for validation but filled with the true wealth of gratitude, is now overflowing. An energy that was once consumed by defending, managing, and promoting the self is now liberated. This abundant, free-flowing energy must go somewhere. It cannot be contained. Like a spring that has reached the surface, it must now flow outwards and seek to nourish the world around it. This spontaneous, joyful, and natural outflow of a full heart is the beginning of true service. And this service, born not of duty but of delight, is the highest and most authentic form of worship. We must immediately distinguish this sacred service from its common counterfeit, egoic helping. The ego loves to be a helper. It relishes the role of the savior, the fixer, the wise one who has all the answers. When the ego helps, it does so from a position of perceived superiority. It looks upon another's problem and sees an opportunity to reinforce its own identity as capable and knowledgeable. This kind of helping often creates dependency, as the ego has a vested interest in the other person remaining in a state of need. It can become frustrated or resentful if its advice is not taken, or if its grand gestures are not met with sufficient gratitude. Egoic helping is not about alleviating the suffering of another. It is about alleviating the helper's own discomfort with the other's suffering, and about validating its own importance. It is a transactional act, always looking for a return on its investment. True service, or seva, as it is known in some traditions, arises from a completely different space. It is born of the understanding of oneness, the felt sense that we are all waves of the same ocean. When you engage in true service, there is no helper and helped. There is only the intelligence of life moving through one form to support another. It does not seek to fix, but to empower. It does not offer answers, but holds a space for the other to find their own. It is anonymous in its spirit, for the joy is entirely contained within the act of giving itself. A heart engaged in true service does not care if it receives a thank you. Its fulfillment comes from having been used as a channel for love to enter the world. It is an offering with no strings attached, a pure gift from a heart that is so full it cannot help but give. When we hear the word service, our minds often conjure images of grand, specific activities, working in a soup kitchen, volunteering for a charity, or joining a great humanitarian cause. These are beautiful and noble forms of service. But to limit service to these activities is to miss its profound, everyday potential. The truth is that any action, no matter how small or seemingly humble, can be transformed into an act of the highest service when it is infused with presence and a loving intention. Consider the work you do to earn a living. Whatever your profession may be, it can be your primary field of service. The street sweeper who approaches his work not as a lowly chore, but as a practice of creating a clean, safe, and beautiful environment for his community, is performing profound service. He is an artist of the mundane, bringing order and care to the world. The office worker who answers emails not with rote indifference, but with genuine helpfulness and kindness, is performing service. She is injecting a current of humanity into the often impersonal world of commerce. The coder who writes elegant, efficient, and thoughtful code to build a useful tool is performing service. He is using his logical mind to reduce frustration and create ease for thousands of people. The parent who raises a child with patience, presence, and unconditional love is performing one of the most foundational and world-changing acts of service imaginable. It is not what you do that defines your service. It is the quality of consciousness, the how that you bring to the doing. Service can also be expressed through the simple, powerful offering of your presence. In our exploration of listening, we saw how the gift of your silent, non-judgmental attention can be deeply healing for another. This is a potent form of service. To be the calm, stable, and peaceful presence in your family or your workplace is an unseen yet vital form of service. In a world frantic with anxiety and reactivity, the person who can hold a space of quietude acts as a lighthouse. You may not even be doing anything, but your state of being becomes an anchor for everyone around you, reminding them of the possibility of peace. You serve the world by embodying the peace you wish to see in it. Furthermore, any act of creation born from a place of love is an act of service. When you cook a meal for your family with care and attention, you are not just providing sustenance, you are infusing the food with the energy of love and serving them a dish of pure nourishment for body and soul. When you cultivate a beautiful garden, you are serving your neighbors and the passers-by by offering them a moment of beauty, a connection to nature that might be the most hopeful thing they see all day. When you create art, write music, or craft a story from an authentic place within you, you are performing a vital service. You are holding up a mirror to the human condition, expressing a beauty or a truth that can make another person feel less alone, more understood, more alive. You are serving the soul of the world. This is why service is the highest form of worship. Traditional worship often involves symbolic gestures. We offer flowers at an altar, we light a candle, we burn incense, we sing a hymn. These are beautiful symbols pointing towards the divine. But service is a living offering. It is direct worship in action. You are not offering a flower as a symbol of your devotion. You are offering the living, breathing energy of your own life force. You are offering your time, your attention, your skill, your presence, back to the source of all life. It is the ultimate gesture of gratitude, the complete embodiment of your praise. There is a beautiful image for this. Imagine you are a lit candle. By using your flame to light another candle, do you lose any of your own light, number? You lose nothing at all. But the result is a doubling of the light in the room. This is the nature of true service. It is not a depletion of your energy. It is not a sacrifice in the sense of loss. When you give from a place of fullness, your own light is not diminished. Instead, you participate in the great multiplication of light, of love, of consciousness in the world. This is the ultimate act of honoring the divine spark within all things. You worship the light by spreading the light. And as you live more and more from this place of joyful, spontaneous service, a final beautiful transformation begins to occur. The very distinction between the server and the served, between me and other, starts to become thin, transparent, and ultimately meaningless. You are no longer a person who is helping the world. You begin to feel as though you are simply a conduit, a channel through which the universe itself is helping the world. The action flows through you, but it does not feel like it originates with you. Your personal will aligns with the universal will, and there is no friction, no sense of effort. The dancer and the dance become one. This is the dissolution of the separate self into the flow of life. And this leads us to the final realization of our journey. If your actions are no longer separate from the flow of life, then the ultimate offering is not what you do at all. It is the very quality of what you are. Your very being, in its natural, liberated state, becomes the final and most complete prayer. The path of service, when walked from a place of anonymous, overflowing love, leads to a final, great dissolution. The sense of a separate doer, the small self who is performing these good deeds, begins to fade. The action flows so naturally, so effortlessly, that there is no room left for an actor to take credit. You are no longer a person helping the world. You are the world helping itself through the vessel of your form. The dancer merges into the dance. This is the culmination of our entire journey. It is the realization that the ultimate spiritual practice is not a practice at all. It is a state of being. It is the discovery that when the inner world is clear and aligned with truth, your very existence becomes a prayer. Let us retrace the steps of our pilgrimage. We began as seekers, looking for a sacred temple outside of ourselves. We turned our gaze inward and found an unquiet, untended garden, and we learned to gently cultivate it. We discovered, beneath the storm of our thoughts, the vast, silent sky of our own awareness, a stillness that could hold everything. We faced the heavy, armored ego and learned that the path to its dissolution was not through war, but through the revolutionary softness of a gentle heart. We practiced the art of letting go, of unclenching the fist of the past. We found that this created the space for compassion to bloom, a compassion that had to circle back to embrace and forgive our own selves. We redefined humility not as weakness, but as the great freedom of thinking of ourselves less. This quieted our minds and allowed us to truly listen, to discover the sacred hidden in the most mundane moments of our lives. We saw that karma was not a punishment, but a perfect mirror, and that our words and our silence were potent forms of creation. We learned that the universe responds not to our pleading words, but to the vibrational frequency of our hearts, and that the patience to hold a new frequency was a sacred practice in itself. We discovered that gratitude was the true source of wealth, which in turn liberated us from the need for the world's approval, allowing our actions to become pure, selfless service. Each of these steps was a doorway. Each was a practice, a tool, a new way of seeing. But the goal was never to become a perfect practitioner. The goal was not to collect spiritual techniques, as the ego collects achievements. The purpose of the entire journey was a fundamental transformation of the very substance of your being. It was to clear away the debris of conditioning so that what you truly are could finally shine forth. And the ultimate realization is this: the purpose of all your doing was to arrive at a state of effortless being. The purpose of all your prayers was to become the prayer itself. To understand this, consider a rose. A rose does not try to be fragrant. It does not perform a daily fragrance practice. It does not worry about whether its scent is pleasing enough. The fragrance is not something the rose does. It is a natural, spontaneous, and radiant expression of what the rose is. Its very essence, its being, is the offering of its scent to the world. A healthy, fully realized rose cannot help but be fragrant. So it is with a human being who has done the deep inner work. You no longer have to try to be peaceful. You no longer have to practice being loving. Peace and love are not actions you perform. They are the natural fragrance of your consciousness now that the weeds of fear, resentment, and judgment have been cleared away. Your prayer is not the words you articulate. It is the subtle, silent fragrance of your presence in the world. Think also of a perfectly tuned instrument, perhaps a great harp standing in an open field. It does not strive to make music. It simply stands in a state of perfect readiness, of total receptivity. And when the wind, the breath of life, moves through it, beautiful music is created. The harp does not compose the song. It is the channel through which the song of the universe can be heard. All of our inner work, the letting go, the forgiving, the cultivation of stillnesses, the process of tuning the instrument of our own nervous system, our own heart, our own mind. When the instrument is perfectly tuned, we do not need to do anything. We can simply stand in a state of receptive presence, and the breath of life moving through us will create a beautiful harmony. Our life becomes the music. Our being becomes the song. When you abide in this state, the very qualities you once sought to cultivate become the effortless expression of your nature. Your stillness is your temple. You no longer need to go to a special place to find peace, because you carry the sanctuary of your own silent awareness with you everywhere you go. Your quiet presence becomes a temple that others can enter and find refuge in. Your breath is your mantra. You no longer need to repeat a special word or phrase. The simple, natural rhythm of your breathing, which you are now aware of, is a constant, silent communion with the source of life. Each inhale is a thank you. Each exhale is a yes to what is. Your gaze is your blessing. The compassion you practiced is now the very way your eyes perceive the world. When you look at another person, you see beyond their egoic shell to the spark of being within. Your look is not one of judgment or assessment, but one of loving recognition. This silent seeing is a powerful act of healing and affirmation for those you encounter. Your actions are your ritual. The presence you once struggled to bring to washing a bowl is now your natural mode of being. Whether you are typing an email, making tea, or walking down the street, you do it with a sense of totality and reverence. The boundary between the sacred and the profane has completely dissolved. Every act is an act of worship because you are fully present for it. And your joy is your ultimate offering. The state of gratitude has blossomed into a quiet, uncaused joy. It is a subtle sense of well-being that is not dependent on whether things are going your way. It is the simple joy of being alive, of being awareness itself. This joy is not a selfish indulgence. It is a beacon. In a world starved for hope, a genuinely joyful and peaceful human being is the most potent contribution one can make. Your radiance becomes your service. And so, we arrive at the beginning by coming to the end. The great search is over. The temple you sought in a distant land, you have found in your own heart. The divine presence you prayed to as a separate entity, you now feel as the very essence of your own being. The future state of enlightenment you strived for, you have discovered in the timeless reality of the present moment. The entire journey was not one of becoming someone better. It was a journey of unbecoming everything you were not. It was a process of lovingly dismantling all the false structures of the ego, all the inherited conditioning, all the stories of lack and fear, so that the magnificent, peaceful, loving reality of your true nature could be revealed. You have not gained anything new. You have simply come home to what you have always been. And this is not an end. It is the true beginning. The beginning of a life lived not as a seeker, but as a presence, not as one who is praying, but as one who is the prayer. And so, our journey of words comes to a close. The path we have walked together was not a line leading from one point to another, but a circle that has led you back to the sacred center of your own being. The final word fades, and what remains is the profound, living silence from which it came. Rest here, in this stillness. You began this journey perhaps seeking a temple, a holy place of peace. You looked for it in the promises of the future and in the echoes of the past. But look now. Feel the life within your hands, the gentle, steady beat of your own heart. This, here, is the temple. Your body is the sacred ground. Your bones are its pillars. Your heart is its altar. You are a walking sanctuary, carrying a silent, holy space into the world with every step you take. You do not need to go anywhere to find peace. The peace is where you are. You sought a prayer, a perfect collection of words that could bridge the gap between you and the divine. But listen now, in the quiet. Feel the soft rhythm of your own breath, the gentle rise and fall of your own chest. This is the prayer that is never ceasing. The inhale, a silent receiving of all of life's grace. The exhale, a gentle offering of your peace back to the world. This is the only mantra you will ever need. It is the subtle song of existence, playing through you at every moment. You sought a grand offering, a worthy gift to present at the altar of the universe. You thought it had to be a great deed, a noble sacrifice. But the truest offering is not what you do. It is the quality of what you are. It is the softness of a gentle heart in a world of hardness. It is the quiet courage of a humble spirit in a world of noise. This is the only gift that is asked of you. Your gentle heart is the truest offering. Therefore, let all seeking cease. The search is over because you have realized that the seeker and the sought are one. You are that which you have been looking for. You do not need to find the sacred. You are the sacred. Be still and know.